What's going on, guys? So I guess I finally made it out of the game. And you know what? Just in time for DASHCAST episode 5, baby. What's up? So on this episode of DASHCAST, we're going to be starting off with the Cycle Circleback. Then we're going into the cycle highlights. Then we've got Emdubs players of the cycle. And then we're going to be talking about the updates coming to Hyperdash. And we've got a game type discussion that's going to be amazing. So stay tuned for the rest of DASHCAST. I'm out of the game, baby. I'm back. All right, what's going on, guys? We're going to do your Cycle Circleback. Going to do it live. Pre-recorded, but live. I mean, I've been in the game for so long, I don't even know what's going on with Dash League anymore. So let's just go with Dash League. I don't know why Dash League Network has already searched, but let's just, okay. Dash League of Legends. Oh, shoot, Dash League, there it is. All right. Oh, don't look at the Cycle 6 ones. We'll blur those out. All right. So here we go. We've got Southern Cross taking on Ajax. Southern Cross gets the win over Ajax 2-0. Great game. I did end up watching that, actually. Then we've got Sky taking on Life. Yeah, Life gets the win there. But Sky did put up a good fight. Not that I have a dog in the fight. I have a goose in the fight. And then we've got Southern Cross taking on Midnight. That was a good game. Southern Cross gets the 2-over-1 win over Midnight. And then we've got XP taking on Fire. Rest in peace, XP. Sorry about that, buds. Fire gets the win over XP. Then we've got Emu taking on TBDI. Double forfeit. Whew. Then we've got Midnight taking on Acid. Let's check the scores on that. Midnight getting the 2-0 win over Acid. Then we've got Jester getting the 2-0 win over Limbo. Nice, Jester. I think we got some highlights from that. We'll see. Then we've got Underdog taking on Emu. Oh, by the way, we're working backwards. I got goose brain right now. We're working backwards, but that's okay. Underdog taking on Emu. 2-0 win. Underdog. You underdogs. Look at that. 100% on the payload. And 3-0ing on the volcano. Very nice. Very nice. Love to see that. Then we've got Envy taking on Supernova. Envy does Envy things and gets the win. Then we've got Control taking on Life. 2-0 over Life. This was a fantastic game. There's some spoilers. There's some spoilers right there, but you know what? Go back and watch the game. Dash League Network, baby. Go back and watch the game. And then we've got Phoenix taking on Sky. We do have a highlight from this game on Sky side, but this was also a great game to watch and play in. Just don't look at my kitty. Next up, we've got Wolf taking on ATX. Wolf gets the win. ATX did put up a great fight. 86% to Wolf's 97. Great fight. But Wolf comes away with the win. Then we've got UNSC taking on Phoenix. UNSC coming away with that win. Although, oh yeah. So Phoenix got pre-checked. I do remember that. But that was a good game. Then we got Control taking on Envy. 2-0. What? Very nice. That's awesome. Go back and watch this game. This was a super close game. Control comes away with the win. Next up, we've got XP taking on Hacks. Hacks gets the win due to this. XP, come on. And then we've got Fire taking on Hard. Fire 2-0 win over Hard. That was also a good game, and I think we also have some highlights from that game too. Then we've got Ajax, 2-0 win over Limbo. Very nice, Ajax. Supernova getting the win over Iron. That is a huge win right there. That's awesome. Super close. Yeah, 90-86, and then 2-1. So nice job, Supernova. We've got Rook taking on TBDI. Rook gets the win over TBDI. Nice job, Rook. Hacks over Hard, 2-0. We've got Sith over Acid. Yeah, this was also a pretty close game, 90-86%, and then 3-1 win on Volcano. So nice job, Sith. And then we've got Sith again versus ATX. I don't think this was not as close of a game, but ATX did put up a good fight on this one, but Sith comes away with the win. Then we've got Iron versus UNSC. UNSC gets the win, just like, yeah. Next up, we've got Wolf versus Jester. Sorry, Jester, but Wolf gets this win, and I believe, it was fairly close. Jester, 86%, Wolf 94%, and then Wolf 3-0ing them on the Volcano. Rook versus Underdog. Rook comes away with the win. This was another close game. As we start getting closer to playoffs, we'll see these closer games happen. Sky. Oh, that was from last cycle. I don't know why those are under this cycle. Congratulations, every team. We did it. And now to your cycle highlights. All right, here we go with your Cycle 5 highlights. First off, we're going to start off with Humbles on the Rockets. You'll see Rockets are a theme for these highlights. But we got Humbles absolutely popping off, getting some blind corner shots. We'll just let this play out.
A fantastic kill there. No looking. And another no look. Humble predicts is going crazy with these rockets right now.
And then we've got Lobster Master, same team as Humbles, doing some rocket action as well. Then, not to be outdone, we've got Shout with the Rockets. Same spot, same Rockets. Crazy killing streak. Then we've got Small Quad shooting rockets at the cart, but Thai Food down there in the bottom right-hand corner just dancing off of it every single time. Perfectly timed up.
Definitely a good strategy for high killing teams.
Then we've got Surf Rise doing a little bit of everything, pushing the cart, getting some kills. But the real reason for this highlight happens right now as Surf Rise gets behind Limbo and just waits and plots and then attacks. Kills two members of Limbo from behind and then takes out everybody around the cart and even takes out Rockets. Now we've got Bulldog with more rocket action. Bulldog curving these rockets up around the cart, holding down the bottom of this hill for his team. Next up, we've got Sandman doing Sandman things. Going on a crazy kill streak here and getting a bounce shot kill
No, he's watching the flank. Very smart of him to watch out for Mr. Pump, who otherwise might be able to take out Crusader. Now he can follow up and get all the kills as they try to focus on his teammate. 4 minutes and 25 seconds. They are dominant down this hill, virtually unstopped. And Phoenix is moving forward.
No member of Acid.
Next up, we've got Sugarcane pushing the cart all by himself
Totally popping off right here on a 5K.
until his team comes in for backup. And we got Rapscallion, double SMGs.
Every other kill.
Amazing kill streak here from Rap. Then we've got the entire team of Sky on this highlight getting an overtime push. Hey, look, it's me. Getting a crazy overtime push. And Spud finally comes in to end it.
Headshots by one up.
Next up, we've got 4 holding down cart in what I like to call the Valley of Death here.
Headshot there. Going for some dashes. I think he just took a second to breathe and to congratulate himself with that. Good flank on Destroyer once again. Moving into the cart.
Then we've got
Dang it,
Vinko.
double SMG or single?
This was
Able to get
Vinko's
2 kills
second
through the
ever
car.
Dash
Cart
League
is stuck.
match,
We got 2
and he
minutes
goes on
remaining.
an
We are
absolute
at
crazy kill streak with these double
84%.
SMGs.
Vinko steals a try dash, gets that Luis character, but not this time. He got lucky. Continuing his kill streak to 9. Vinko. Thank you, announcer. Vinko, number 11. Will they ever finish their kill streak? Number 12 for their teammates. Number 13. I can't count that high. You need to stop. Good job, Vinko.
And last but certainly not least,
They need to put Bobby on that cart though.
we've got Southern
They are
Cross
very close to
sneaking
getting
through and pushing this cart
One on
through the
cart.
goal.
it.
Xerneas,
The
of
map,
course,
and they
getting that win, backed up by Satan
still
Slayer.
90 seconds there to get some more.
And last but not least, to celebrate Rocket highlights, we've got some awesome Rocket action courtesy of Rapscallion.
Yeah.
And those are your Cycle 5 highlights. Don't forget, if you want to be featured in this highlight show, post all of your highlights on the Discord.
Alright, what's up everyone? It's Emdubs here. It's now time to announce players of Cycle 5. So just as a reminder, the players of the Cycle honors are not meant to highlight strictly great stats from individual players. It's meant to recognize players and team success. So usually this is going to go to a team who won a lot and one of their players was a great part of that winning success. So let's get started with the Walker tier. So in the Walker tier, the players of the Cycle 5, we have first of all Humbles from Rook. Now Humbles actually helped lead Rook to a perfect 4-0 map record in Cycle 5. And this includes top scoring in 3 out of the 4 maps, as well as coming in second in scoring for the 4th map played. So as an example, in a tightly contested contest against Underdog, Humbles actually rode cart for over 80 seconds while also dropping 78 kills on that particular map. So great job to Humbles from Rook. Now the second player of the Cycle in Walker is going to be Chiron from Fire. Now Chiron helped lead Fire to a 2-match victory, including an impressive 97 kill outing on Launchpad against Hard. And Chiron also went 74-44 with over 23,000 points in Fire's 3-0 victory on Volcano against Hard. So great job to Chiron as well. And in terms of some honorable mentions in this tier, we have, first of all, Drevny from Hacks, who went 93 kills on Launchpad against Hard. And also Greedy Guy and High from Underdog for leading their team all the way from Walker to second in Sprinter. So great job to those guys as well. Now let's move into the Sprinter tier Dasher of the Cycle. Sprinter tier players of the Cycle, sorry. And first of all, we have Typhoon from Sith, who helped lead Sith to a perfect 4-0 record in Cycle 5. Now, Typhoon was the top scorer, top killer in both payloads played for his team, and he also was top 2 scoring in both of the Volcano maps played for Sith. So great job to Typhoon from Sith. And the second Sprinter player of the Cycle is going to be Noble from Wolf. Now, Noble helped lead Wolf to also a perfect 4-0 record. And this was highlighted by 90 kills plus performance in both of the launchpads played for his team. And he also helped lead Wolf to 2 sub 5-minute victories on Volcano, both of which came in a 3-0 victory. So great job to Noble. And here I just want to highlight 2 players who also should be noted for going 100 kills plus in Sprinter tier. This includes 12 AM Sugarcane, who went over 110 kills on Launchpad against Acid, and also Jester Jonius Joestar for going up exactly 100 kills on Launchpad against Nimble. So great job to those guys. Now let's move into the final and the highest tier, which is the Dasher tier. And the first player of the Cycle in Dasher tier is going to be Rusty from UNSC. Rusty helped lead UNSC also to a perfect 4-0 map record, and this is against Phoenix and Iron. Now, Rusty was especially impressive in UNSC's win against Phoenix by leading the team in kills for both of the maps played, and also leading the team in total scoring across the match against Phoenix. So great job to Rusty. The second Dasher player of the Cycle is going to be awarded to Meep from Control. And Meep helped lead Control also to a perfect 4-0 map record in this cycle against 2 very, very tough opponents in Life and Envy. So just as a note, Control overall was actually very well balanced in all of their maps played across all 5 players. So it was really tough picking a standout player, but for this cycle, I decided to recognize Meep. So in addition, some honorable mentions in the Dasher cycle include Sandman from UNSC, Hogrider from Supernova, Baron from Envy, and Dotcom and Tarluin from Phoenix. Tarluin actually went 99 kills on a launchpad, so great job to him, as well as Castle from Life. So there you have it. Those are your players of the cycle. Just to recap, in the Walker tier, the players of the cycle for Cycle 5 are Humbles from Rook, and Chiron from Fire. And in the Sprinter players of the cycle, we have Typhoon from Sith and Noble from Wolf. And last but not least, in the Dasher tier, the players of the cycle for Cycle 5 are Rusty from UNSC and Meep from Control. So great job to those guys, and I'll see you guys next time.
All right, everyone. So we wanted to get to a discussion about the Dev podcast that they released recently. They talked about a lot of interesting stuff. We have here to talk about it Odd, Goose, and Gollum. What's up, fellas?
What's up?
Saw, dude. What is up? I think I just
Hi.
aged about 40 years with that saw, dude.
Hey guys.
First off, I'm just curious, what do y'all think about the information they left us in that podcast?
Well, I mean,
were you neutral to it? Was it good information? Or are you like stoked? Like, what level of interest did you have for it?
well, I mean, the number one thing for me is the fact they're doing it at all. That they're
Yeah, I
like
agree.
going out of their way to be informational is a good thing in itself.
Yeah.
Like they post updates and stuff on Discord. They always have. They've like had announcements. They've been receptive to changes, but that hasn't really been like obvious. I feel like to people who aren't on the Dash League board or who haven't been around for as long, that they are as receptive to info and responsive and tied into the community as they are.
That's a good point. That any people that have been out like since the free to play they don't remember the time when the devs used to. You might not even remember the time, Gollum, where the devs used to put out a pretty big update every month.
Yeah,
Of
no.
course, that was
That's a
mostly in
good
the
point.
alpha phase, but they still did that for a little while after release. But then it became an update every 2 to 3 months, and then an update every 6 months or something. To where
Mhm.
it got to the point where like people were like, are they even doing anything? So I think like I agreed with you. I think a lot of people, the biggest thing for them was that like, oh yeah, the devs are still paying attention to the game.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Goose?
No, I agree that it's nice to hear from them. The only thing that I wish had happened is that there had been some sort of moment where they're like, oh, by the way, this update, this like levels update is coming next month or whatever. It's like we have to wait now for months for the next
Yeah.
update to hit. But
Yeah.
I agree. I'm glad that it was all said.
I
But
am
good things come to those who wait. Did you just die on?
No, I kicked this dude's ass.
odds kicking
Would you
asses
stop?
and taking names.
Would you stop, Odd? Would you pay attention to the Dashcast while
Get
you're on
in
the
the
Dashcast?
business, dude.
Okay, so we're gonna go down. I think we've got everything they talked about for the most part. We're just gonna go sort of down systematically down the list and discuss each one. The first thing we'll touch on is how they mentioned they had 300,000 monthly players, which is a lot more than I suspected. And I know that like there are a lot of alternate accounts, a lot of people going around with their fake accounts so they can play anonymously
And also different ways that
and
you can
whatever.
count
I
the
really
number of
doubt
active
that
players.
for any significant
Yeah.
majority.
I agree on. I don't think that's very many people. I think that's more of a league community thing. Which so I don't think that's a significant chunk of the 300,000. I do wonder how many of those are in China.
Yeah.
The game, yeah.
The other thing that I'm curious to see about that number is if those are like how long those people play. If they like play for 5 minutes per month, like
That would be my
Yeah.
guess.
yeah,
I would say
Yeah.
20 minutes 1 month, and then they stop forever. That's
Mm.
that's how a lot of VR games go. Is that
I
people
think that's a lot of
will-
games in general.
they'll find a game, they'll play for I don't know an hour, and then they'll kick some noobs, they'll play some people about their level, and then they'll run into like Lat, who's like screaming and farting, and he kills them like 40 times, and he tells them that he's gonna meet their mother later that
Yeah.
night, and then
I
they
do
just
make
quit forever.
I do make farting a big part of my pub experience
Yeah, I
and
know, we
hitting
can
on
smell
people's
it.
mothers.
but like
Alright.
like don't get me
But
wrong, like I'm glad that they released that information because that makes me feel better about the state of the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. It's not just us.
Well, I mean, Odd and I remember back again, like during alpha and whatever, when we felt the game was super active and had like a huge, huge potential, and how many players were playing back then and how full the servers were back then is nothing compared to now. So I already had the sense that the game was doing really well since free to play, because you see hundreds of servers listed and so many full servers like back before free to play. I mean, there were only a few servers that was kind of dying off before free to play. Like really, it was hard to find a server. But back, I would say during alpha, they had maybe what was it on maybe 20 servers or something like that, and they would be
Something like that,
you
yeah.
know yeah, something like that, and half of them would be full a lot of the time. So like compared to like having 10-ish full servers back then to what is it 50 or
Thousands.
something any given of like just full servers, but then you have all the 9 out of 10s and the 8 out. There's just tons of servers going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think things like Game Pass I think Xbox has Game Pass and PlayStation's thing where you can just stream games without having to buy them. I imagine that's like,
I don't think you
that
can
keeps
do
one of
that
those
with VR.
games. No, but I'm just saying with having a
yeah,
free to play game reminds me of something like Game Pass, where you could just go test it out, and maybe that counts as like a user for that month. But then they're like, nah, this game's not for me, or they get stomped by somebody, and they're like, no, I can't compete in this. And they stop playing. Like, I wonder if that counts in the 300,000 count too. Well, yeah, I mean it does, but anyway. So that's interesting. That's 300,000 is a lot more than I suspected it was, even though I know there's lots of players and stuff. It's still more than I thought. But the other thing, I would say probably the most disappointing thing about the podcast, which I actually knew this already because the board has a channel in the Hyperdash server where the board and the devs can talk to each other. And for one thing, there's a little bit less conversation going on now than there used to with the devs, just because the dev team is smaller now and all that sort of stuff, and whatever.
Yeah.
But one thing they did tell us a long time ago, well, not a long time ago, but months ago, was they're not working on the networking thing anymore, and they specifically told us not to go tell anybody that. So now
here's my opinion on that, right? The speed of light is only so fast. The speed of modern computers are only so fast. And Hyperdash is a game that is like, if you asked me, if you said, Odd, you should design a game that works really, really poorly with like latency and like has issues with where, there's first frame movement. So you move really far in a single frame, right? That's basically the what it's the killer of like the cause of post dash. I would have designed Hyperdash. I would have made Hyperdash as something to infuriate people.
Yeah, me
You would've done
personally,
that
I
anyway
don't.
for that.
I've never been someone who's really been a big hit reg complainer or post dash complainer. I've always been like, yes, I get post dashed, but I also post dash other people. That probably works out 50-50 and whatever. And it's like, also, if I have a shot that doesn't go through hit reg or whatever, is it annoying? Hell yes, but people are also doing that to me. So I've always just, whether it's true or not statistically, whether it works out to be 50-50, as much as I benefit, as much as like I don't benefit from it, then that's what I tell myself to keep myself enjoying the game and whatever. And there's some players, and we all know who they are, who cannot tell themselves that it's it works just the same way for everybody else. It's not just like you're not cursed in the game. It's not only happening to you; it's happening to everyone equally, and whatever. So I agree. It's there's always going to be, like, every game has peaker's advantage, but most games are so much slower than Hyperdash, and most games don't have like the dash mechanic or the teleport mechanic that really shows you getting killed, like post dash or something like that.
Miles
Usually,
away. Yeah.
yeah, usually you
Yeah,
take
I
a
agree.
step or two and you don't notice a difference. But here you're like, you've dashed 30 feet away, but you died, back there, and it's like, oh, what
And
the hell? What's wrong with this
Yeah.
game? It's like,
The infuriating red line that shows up pointing to where you just left.
Yeah. yeah, which it happens in all games, but you're just not moving as fast. So it's just
Yeah.
like Odd was saying, he knew exactly where this was going to go, and like he was saying, it's just this game makes those issues that every game has just glaringly obvious.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's
yeah,
it's the speed of technology, right? It's not they can't build a game. It's it's other stuff.
But
Yeah.
the thing that I thought about is, like, why say that you're not working on it then? Like, you could have just left us in the dark and I would have been like, all right, whatever. But like the fact that you're like,
I think they get asked all the time, probably, and they're
okay.
probably just like, no, guys, it's not happening. Shut up, leave us alone. Of course, we all still want it to happen. Like, I would still like to have a networking update,
Yeah.
and at least the deal with like hit registration issues and stuff like that. But one thing they said in the podcast was like, I suppose with like how small the dev team is or something right now, it would take about a year's worth of work, and they're just not going to do that, even though all of us want to be like, do it.
Also, it like sucks.
Because
That's like
that'd be at
that's
the
like something
sacrifice
that
of
nobody
everything
wants
else.
to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do I do like a
Yeah, I guess that's not
Odd,
the
will
cool
you
thing.
stop it?
what?
I see you there trying to play games.
What?
man.
I'm not playing a game. I don't know what you're talking about.
streaming it,
I
right?
was thinking. No.
Odd is literally streaming himself playing games while we're on here trying to podcast. You wouldn't do this in your Acer podcast.
I
You
would.
douche weasel.
I'm just more. I'm more subtle about it.
Jesus. All right, so no networking update. Little disappointing there, but it is what it is. The other thing they talked about is they're going to do some in-game polls. I'll be interested to see how these are implemented and what exactly they're going to poll. Is it like, are they going to have a poll up on the like on the main screen that people can choose to vote on, or will it pop up in the lobby, or I don't know. I wonder how
Yeah.
they'll implement those.
Like you just get some sort of pop-up ad type thing, like rate your experience.
Yeah, right in the middle of when you're playing in a map, pop-up
Yeah.
ad.
You just
Mid-fight,
got killed
yeah.
by SMGs, and you're like, that pops
How
up.
does this
Our
make you
SMG is
feel?"
overpowered.
You're going for
Yes,
that counter, but you
yes.
can't even see the button behind the pole that pops up.
Yeah, I mean, it'd have to be in lobby, or like especially a post-game lobby, right? Like I can only imagine if they want to have
think-
polls in game, it would have to be either a completely optional within menu, opt-in,
Yeah.
go out of your way to do it thing,
Yeah.
or something that pops up in the post-game lobby, but not during like the vote or anything like that.
I think it would
Linux
either
now.
have to be in the main menu. I don't think they would do it once you join a server, just because they have to know how incredibly annoying that would be. So it'd have to be in the main menu where either you opt in, or it would be on like startup when you open the game. You must answer this question to get to the game,
Yeah.
sort of deal. And if they're smart about it, it's going to be one or two questions. It's not going to be like some 15-question survey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
People are
with
gonna
a
be like,
bunch
"Ah, I'm
of
gonna
like
play
horrible
something else."
answers.
Yeah, I mean,
It-
if it's optional and people can go do it on their own time, then sure, a bunch of answers. But if it's like on startup that you have to answer these couple of things to get to the game, then it better be short and sweet.
Mhm.
And actually, on start, it has to be optional. If they do it on startup, people just got to click a button to get it the hell out of their face.
Yeah.
So it's got to be optional. People are going to want to have to take the poll in order for it to actually be effective. So that's
Or
what
I
I would
wonder,
imagine.
I wonder if they did put it in the lobby, if they would gamify it, where they would make the buttons big, like the normal buttons, and you can
You
slap like
smash
A
a
or
button
B.
to vote.
Yeah. I don't know.
That would be
I don't know.
hilarious.
Maybe
part of
that's
the new
going to
lobby
go into that
update.
Yeah.
back lobby
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
Welcome to the poll
That's
room.
That's the whole lobby update is where that yellow door was. It opens and it has two buttons for yes or no and different questions.
There's just a big post of like Orcolm's face looking down
Yeah.
on you when you vote.
I will send Oracle death threats if that's all the lobby changes there are.
Yeah, 3 buttons at least, guys.
All right, so polls. I'm kind of curious what sort of things they would be asking first on polls. I think it's to address like meta changes and stuff. My guess would be the first thing they're going to ask on the polls is questions about the weapons. Which weapons do they think are overpowered? Which ones do they think need buffs? And all this sort of stuff. But what do you guys think?
Well, here's the thing about asking like that. Sorry, I don't understand why they would ask that to like the general population, because like the little
I hope
kids
they
who are playing
don't.
this game don't care about the meta. Like they're gonna grab whatever gun they want and
Well,
they
Yeah.
think are powerful.
There's
Unless you
some
disagree.
there's some subtlety there with like understanding kind of. So here's a kind of unfortunate phenomena that game developers have to deal with, is that usually the people that play your game the most, that really like your game, fuck me, sorry, the people that play your game the most and really like it are not going to be good at giving advice. Like professional gamers are not game developers, and I'm gonna sorry, they're not
Oh my
game
God.
developers.
Just eat a sock at this point.
They're not game developers. They really suck at like giving advice and telling people it's like, oh yeah, this would make the game better, because they
Yeah.
design the game to be like harder. They design it to be less fun for the average person. Like if I was given full control over Hyperdash, I guarantee most people would quit, right? Which is why I limit the
Why you're not on
feedback.
the
You
dev
would
team.
choose SMG's only Pumpkinhead all the time. We know you love those
Exactly.
mutators.
Leviathan
Yeah.
Dash.
like mutators are great for the general player populace, but for professional players, we hate them. It's like,
no,
I'm not gonna use that
I
shit.
agree. Like mutators are fun on occasion, and like there's the whole like mutator madness thing that happens. But like I'm talking about like gun changes and like meta changes in that aspect.
I don't think they're gonna ask about that. I think that they'll.
The way they
what
were
did they
talking in the podcast, it seems like that is the kind of thing that they were asking, though. That's why I'm thinking that might be the first poll thing
Okay.
they ask. I agree with you. Maybe I was hearing them wrong or whatever, but I agree with you about like, I wouldn't want to ask stuff like that with all the 7-year-olds that play the game and have no idea. They're just like all they want to do is get SMGs and stand in a corner and get killed. It's like I don't want those people's opinions on on how to make the game better. The other thing too is like most of the people who play the game are not in the league, and so the league works the way it is right now. And I wouldn't want like the majority of people who aren't in the league who want things to be way more wacky than they are, and they want this crazy shit and that crazy shit, and then it affects the league and whatever. Like I really hope that if they're making giant changes or whatever, they save a league build for us, or like a league mutator to where we could keep playing league balanced the way it is right now. And we're going to talk about meta changes and stuff later, and we could get more into that a little bit later. So let's go ahead and move on to the next thing, and we'll get to that stuff later. We can go in more detail. But so after the polls, next thing was highlighted maps. So anyone who doesn't remember, who wasn't around for when these were a thing before, basically what highlighted map was, it was an extra map choice on the map vote menu in the lobby, and it was like the map of the day, I think it was. And let's say it was like it was always a map paired with a certain mutators, and I don't think the devs picked random mutators. I think they picked mutator combinations they thought people would find fun or whatever. And Oracle had mentioned that whenever they did do a highlighted map, then it got voted a lot. And I would imagine the big reason that got voted a lot is because people do like to play mutators, but they don't like the crapshoot of just clicking mutator, then having random mutators.
And then getting
Yeah.
a lot of times give slow respawn or something like that.
Yeah, probably intentional, like intent built mutator systems, like a really specific, like, I think that could be good. But also I think that here's what I probably think that the surveys is going to be, is that they'll have you play a game, and then they'll ask you out of your game, rate your fun experience, and then they'll take all of the data, like they'll take the metadata about like, okay, who was in the game, what map did they play, what guns did they use, and then they'll use that to make a giant spreadsheet full of information, and then they'll do their Excel functions or SPSS or whatever, and then just see what it spits out, essentially.
And while they're making that Excel sheet, they'll listen to us dips talk about what we think about the changes, and then maybe compare notes there.
And they'll be like, I don't know about that. I think that players massively overestimate how well they know their game. I will say that. What most players want, they don't think about games from the perspective of like a normal human, to be kind. They think about it weird like.
You're speaking weird like. I mean, can you expand on that a little bit? Like, I kind of get the concept of what you're talking about, like that most players, most people are not thinking with a game dev perspective and not thinking with the same knowledge base that a game dev has. But like, what do you mean?
That they're not thinking what's best for the game, but what's best for them personally, which is not best for
what they would like. Yeah, because most people don't.
Most people are not like tied into a community aspect.
Most people also don't know like what they want, like in a game.
That's true.
If you ask a person to design a game for themselves, they won't play it. They'll be like, this shit isn't fun. Even though they built the game.
If they knew what to design, then like they'd be designing games probably. They wouldn't be a game designer, playing this game, right?
Yeah.
Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but Hyperdash. There you go, devs. That's what I want.
Hyperdash of the Night. Symphony of the Dash.
Symphony of the Dash. Okay, let's get back to the highlighted maps. So I don't remember in the podcast if all they're doing is just bringing back highlighted maps or if they're bringing it back in a different way. But like we were talking about, they would pick certain mutators that I think they thought would work well, and those maps would get played, which I think they'd get played a lot because you could see what mutators you were going to get and be like, yeah, those would be fun. Let's try them out. One thing I would like to see them introduce is packages of mutators like as a vote option. So like
Yeah. Yep.
you could do max dash, unlimited sprint, and quick energy refill together as like
Hey,
a
that would
mutator
be
package.
fun.
Speedball.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's
that would
just
be
basically like infinite dashes.
that would be really fun for like me and like 8 other people, and then it would be horrible for every other living human.
Yeah.
And
Well, you could also have like the tanky like mutator package, which is like half damage, and all the
Yeah.
stuff that like raises time to kill. You could have another
Yeah.
package of all the things that lower time to kill. And like,
okay.
And I think if they did that and like named them and like you could do, like the tank package or whatever and had them
Yeah.
able to vote in the map, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So I
That's what I'm
told this
saying,
was a crackpot idea that I talked to Orcolum about. Basically, you have these like 3 different game modes, right? And you set it up so people can just choose to play one or the other, and then each one has like a random amount of servers, right? But every time that a bunch of people play one, it like duplicates its server, right? So what you get is you get like a game that basically like keeps changing itself to be the best game. Does that make sense?
yeah. Survival of the fittest with like game types.
Yeah,
and
well,
mutators and maps.
it's like a totally insane idea, but like it works, right?
Yeah, it's funny.
If you could program it to work, yeah.
Anyway, and I talked to Orcolum about it, and I was like, "What do you think about this?" And he's like, "I think that you're not having to build this."
Yeah. As you're saying that, what I'm thinking of is like sounds like a lot of work. And that's one thing that is one thing they didn't talk about on the podcast was how many devs are still on the dev team. There are still devs on the dev team, but it is a smaller
I think
dev
it's
team
maybe
for sure.
I think it's maybe 5.
Yeah, it's something like that. Especially if Orcolum's the head dev on the game, because he hasn't been the head dev on Hyperdash. That was always
the head of anything.
Well, that was always your own. Was the head dev, and I don't know if he's still on Breaches or if he's working on.
I think he's just
the next game. Or
I think he's the head of just Triangle Factory.
You think he's just a head? Like he's just like this head floating
Right,
around?
Yeah,
floating head,
I've met
like
him.
a
He's got like a
Futurama,
little.
maybe in
He's
Matar.
got a little metal pole, you know.
He's just
Oh.
he's probably like a paperweight on Tebow's
Yeah.
desk, like to hold the papers down, and he can talk to him there. Yeah.
Okay.
Another thing I'm interested in is like Hyperdash gets 300,000 monthly unique users. I wonder how many Breachers gets still. It's got to be more, I would imagine, but I wonder.
I don't know because Breachers, I would say that it's
Well,
here's
Breachers
what I would
isn't
say.
free to play yet, so
Yeah, the average playtime for Breachers is probably way higher, but the average like
retention
click rate. The
click
rate.
rate.
Retention on Breachers is probably higher, but the like click rate, like the download rate on Hyperdash is probably way up because it's free to play, but also it's really punishing. And I don't know if you guys have spent a lot of time in VR, clearly, right?
Yeah.
Is Hyperdash your first like pro game?
Yeah.
Yes.
for sure.
Okay.
It's not the first one
Okay.
I played, but it was the first one that I was like, this is the type of game I was talking about when I got
Okay.
a VR headset. Yeah.
So for me, this is Hyperdash is like a this is
Not
like
your first because Wands was your first, right?
well, it's not really about like it being my first per se, but it's about it being like how many games I've interacted with, and so basically this is a very what we have in Hyperdash is you guys would say that the community is pretty nice, right? It's a pretty good community, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Once you ban out all the assholes.
Right. Well, okay, here's the thing. Even Breachers, do you think that any Breachers person, like any single Breachers community, could actually, like, do you think any of them have the manpower to ban every single toxic person?
Uh,
I don't know. I
well,
don't
I'd
follow
have to
those
say I wouldn't
communities, so
know.
I have no idea.
Yeah, no, probably. So what happens is that for some games, right? Because the skill ceiling is so high and the barrier of entry is so low, you get all of these players who you get this really cultivated community, and that's what's happened with Hyperdash. And
hmm
what were we talking about?
We
Dude,
were
you
talking
were
about
in the
highlighted
middle
map.
of talking. What is happening?
Yeah,
You need.
because
Do you need like
he
a
stopped playing his
roadmap?
game. He literally
No,
stopped playing his game.
I'm playing a new one.
Like gonna kick in your
Oh,
legs, dude.
you
You couldn't
prick.
even stay on the
I'm
one
gonna mute
game.
Odd. I'm just gonna mute Odd now.
Yeah,
We'll continue on.
get this
No,
motherfucker
please.
out of here.
Look at this game. This game's really pretty, actually, though.
So
No,
you were
Odd, shut
comparing.
up.
You were
Alright.
comparing.
We can
here,
hear you
let's
playing your game.
let's
Through your
get back
mic.
on track. Odd, like
Yes.
suck on your fingers or something for a second. So you were rather comparing the click
Player
rates
count, the
between
unique-
Hyperdash and Breachers
yeah.
and how that relates to the community development and involvement in
Yes,
each game
yes,
and the
yes,
differences there. So you were saying,
I stand by that. I think that for Breachers, it's well, not even Breachers, like a bunch of games, depending on how available. The way that I scale this is by availability of how players are to be shit stomped, if that makes sense. Like in Hyperdash, new player boots up the game. What would you say the shit stomp percentage is?
like 100%.
Like
100%.
like 100.
If
In
you
Breachers-
get to anybody that's higher than like level 10 and you're level 1.
If
like,
they
Yeah,
go
well,
to
because
the
they have the
appropriate
beginner
servers.
lobbies.
yeah.
Yeah, if you go to the appropriate servers, it's okay.
Yeah, so but the thing about it is that like the more available you make your game, the more degraded the community becomes, which is a weird conundrum, which is people are always like, I want to build Hyperdash. I want it to be this big like important game, and I'm like, do you? Do you actually want it to be bigger? Do you want to expand the community? Because that means like Gorilla Tag kids, like Rec Room kids, like Breachers kids, right?
Well, you'd think that the Hyperdash Discord server would be toxic and crazy, and free to play game and whatever. But I don't ever read anything in
Well,
there anymore. It's too much for me to read. But I know
because
Warflame is a pretty strict mod in there, though. He'll ban people no freaking problem. Whereas
the,
I get people like
the Hyperdash Discord itself is not really as much of a community as the Dash League Discord is. That is for
for
certain.
sure. Yeah.
But yeah, because it started off as such a small game with such devoted players, it got very much set up to be this like super easy, not super easy. This like a good community, a very good community.
That solid
Like
foundations
exclusive,
versus
kind of.
starting medium to large from the outset,
yeah,
like
yeah.
Breachers did. Started out much bigger than Hyperdash did.
Breachers started out massive, and it's I don't know. If we wanted to spend a whole segment talking about like the future of VR and like kids in video games, it'd take us like hours. But
kids in video games. Just no. Just say
Yeah.
no.
If you say so.
well, if you want numbers, like that's
yeah.
that's where they are. It's a bunch of like 9-year-olds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the next thing that they talked about in the podcast, which is the challenges. I think Goose, you were saying you think they were weekly challenges. They were
Yeah,
talking about.
I couldn't
don't
remember if they were weekly or monthly, but I feel like they were
says
weekly.
weekly on the post for the stream.
okay,
I've got
cool.
it just up to the
Okay.
side here.
Did
I'm
they
just
mention what
scrolling
you
through it.
get for completing the challenges? Is it like? Is it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's kind
So
of
they
up
just
in the
mentioned that
air
they're like.
because
Okay.
they also didn't. They said that there's no new skins or like anything else, and I feel like that's the only thing that you could reward someone with, or
XP,
Either
maybe?
that
or
or-
XP. Yeah.
If I mean, because
Yeah.
you're raising the level cap to 999,
Right.
so like I'd imagine XP would be the main thing there, and that
Yeah,
makes
I
the
guess
most
that's
sense to me
true.
too, because like this game
Yeah.
is not super
Yeah.
monetized. It has some monetization in it, but there's only so much you can do if the game isn't
Yeah.
already super big. Like a lot of
You know-
big PC shooters tend to be. Like you can have this huge store because you have this huge dev team and like make challenges that give you some rewards that encourage you to spend money on like skins and stuff.
Mm.
That's not something you can do with 5 people developing things. And
Yeah, that's
raising a
true,
level cap
yeah.
and giving experience seems like the most
A good way to
a
keep
straightforward
people
reward
occupied.
thing.
Oh, do
Exactly.
you, okay.
So-
Here's a question.
And also
Oh.
clout, of course. Can't
Oh, yeah.
underestimate the power of clout.
Absolutely.
do you guys think that they are going to transfer existing levels? So like if I've played for, I don't know, 900 hours, this is theoretical, of course. No, it's not. If I've played
I
for
don't-
900 hours,
I don't think
hypothetical.
so.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
highly doubt it.
I would be
And I wonder-
really
I wonder if I
interested
would even
if they
want that.
could, but I just don't think that like unless you write this whole separate thing to like transfer hours played
you
into
could just do
experience.
like 1 level per hour, not 1 level per hour.
1 level per hour.
Uh,
But like
but something similar to that, so that your ancient philosophers of Hyperdash get a
I
little
don't think
bit
they
of
will
recognition.
because that would cheapen the race to 999. You
Yeah.
know, someone starts out at
guess
level
that's true.
670 or something like that. Then
Yeah.
I think
Or someone
I
starts
agree
off
with
at
like
level
these
100.
challenges
right.
being like giving you big experience boosts, and one way to like anybody who wants to be the first to 999 or whatever, like we talked about in a previous podcast about with the interview with the Axion and Crash Zone
Mhm.
about how they were racing Fathead to level
Oh,
100,
the
and it
German
was
people.
basically the two of them versus one of Fathead. Like two of them were on one account, and they barely beat Fathead to 100. And
Right.
so we'll have
Fathead.
races like that to 999. Well, let's just go ahead and get into it because we're kind of talking about both of them. The other thing they announced in the podcast is that they're going up to level 999, and I'm thinking there will be a certain number of people who will want to race towards that. I think it'll help out with retention in a way, because some people are going to want to get there to 999 to say
Would be something
they've done
interesting.
that, and then at that point, I bet a whole lot of people get to 999 and then are like, all right, well, I've done that. What's next? And what's the next game? I'm gonna conquer or whatever.
9999.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So then they raise it to 9,999.
Gosh.
But what are y'all's thoughts? I think
A lot.
each like 100 levels should be as hard to get or progressively harder as it was to get
They
to
will be.
100.
They're
Like,
probably
I would-
exponential.
Yeah, I would like it to just. I want it to be a slog, because if people can get to 999 in a year, then that's so cheap. The fun of
Yeah.
it will be done in a year.
Yeah,
It's like I
yeah.
want that
I
shit
agree.
to take 5 years.
Yeah,
Someone,
yeah.
like,
How much
playing
do you
their
play,
ass off
Vlad?
to get there. It depends on like how active I'm being in the league prepping for match. And this season, I've been pretty active working with Sky
Oh
and stuff
yeah,
like
you
that.
actually play now. Sorry, I was
Yeah,
trying to like
I
He's
always play.
been
do a little
playing.
shit talking, but yeah, you actually play. I'm
Oh.
sure you're still bad, but
Yeah. Well, at least I'm better than you, so that's all that really matters.
whoa. Okay, at
Um,
present that
Oh,
may be true.
I hear a
but-
1v1. Oh, okay. I was gonna say, hear a 1v1 in the future.
No. If you know what, Lad is better than people give him credit for. He's not that good, but he's better than people think.
Eat
It's
shit.
because he's going against top players all the time
He's fighting the entire league constantly.
and then farting on them.
Basically, if I beat you, you should feel bad for yourself because I'm older
Exactly.
than you are.
Exactly.
So feel
Yeah,
bad about
what?
it.
How does that
I've
work?
got the
Well, don't
I've got
worry about
slow
how good he
reflexes.
is. Think about how bad you are. That's what he's saying.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right,
We're,
new game.
we're all about self-hatred here in Dash League. That's the community we love to cultivate.
But what are y'all's thoughts on it? Do you want it to be like really hard to get to 999?
Oh,
Yeah,
Or do
it
you-
should
absolutely.
be.
Yeah.
It
that
should
will
be
make
like a year-long thing, right? Like it should
to
be,
get all the way to 999?
or not
Well-
a
well-
year-long thing. Like maybe a couple years, or like something that you would make a video game documentary about. Have you guys seen
Well,
those?
so Orkula mentioned the way they set it up to get to level 100. They had set that, I guess, figuring like, okay, how many hours do people play, and he set it to where it should take about a year to get to level 100, and then they
Yeah,
said it
that
happened in
happened.
4 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't.
And it
again,
was
it's-
COVID. Keep that in mind. So people were playing literally 10 hours a day. So
it took
Yeah.
me. I
Some
measured
people
it.
were playing 10 hours a day.
I measured
Some
it, and it
people.
took me 9 months to get to 100. So,
mhm.
Wow. Okay. Slack much?
Yeah.
Hey,
Well, I mean, there
It
aren't a
took
lot of
me
fatheads.
2 weeks.
There aren't a lot of
There are
fatheads
so many
who
more
are
fatheads than
literally,
there were.
especially at that time during the pandemic, who were like, playing VR literally 10 hours a day.
I
So-
played when I went to school. Like I had online school, and I would be like in English class, and they'd be like, "Oh, Odd, what do you think of this question?" I would give like some deep philosophical
kind
response
of-
as I was
kind
like
of like-
kicking
Kinda like you're doing
ass.
Kind
right
of
now.
like what you're doing
Hey,
right
whoa,
now.
whoa, whoa. I don't know what you're talking about.
Ah,
Oh my God.
You get Dashcast attention, you son of a bitch.
right.
I'm giving it attention.
We're
But I've just
here.
downloaded
We're
this new
here
game
to
that I wanna
pull
play,
Odd in
so-
for the views, for the view count.
I think this is my like 5th game probably.
He could be the eye candy.
Yeah. No.
So
you guys
I
should
was gonna
show
say,
my-
I was gonna say about the level cap. I think that it should be logarithmic, exponential, like it is.
Logarithmic.
Well, not
Chill.
logarithmic. Okay, exponential.
Chill.
Like for the level 100 thing, right? And it should be such a like Sisyphusian, almost
Yes.
impossible number to get to that it becomes a more significant marker of your actual like playtime
Yes.
and effort to be
There should also
anything
be
in the hundreds. Like even level 300 should be like, oh my God, that's insane. That takes
Yeah.
forever to get to. And
Yeah.
the level cap is not like a point to reach. It is like an end numeral that probably will never be reached.
like- it's like
that's what I
infinity.
think
It's
it
like-
should be and
yeah.
what I think it will be.
It reminds
I
me
think-
of like the back in the day of like Call of Duty, where you would see people having like these huge prestige numbers, and you're like, oh, that's what I want to get to, but I'm only like first or second prestige.
Also, they need to have some. I know they're saying they're not going to add any more skins, but come on now. There needs to be like a 200, 300, 50, maybe 500, 750, and then 999 skin. There's got to be, right? Or like a gun
Yeah.
skin at least.
I totally agree. That was one of the fun things about Pop 1 was that it took a long time to level up, and when you did, you got like a skin with each level or whatever. And people wanted, I don't remember what the top skin was, but it was like, I think it was some gold skin or something like that at like level 50.
Like the
And people went
Midas
for that
touch
stuff.
skin or something.
Yeah, yeah. But I agree with you that it should be like this Sisyphusian task because nobody at a level 100 is proud about being at a level 100 right now. There are
'cause everyone's
8-year-olds who are
100.
level 100, and like
Yeah,
you
like
can
.com.
you can come up to another level 100, yeah, and you can destroy them, and it means literally nothing. And if it actually took
Yeah.
years
It's
to
not
get
a
to
good indicator
999,
of
then maybe there's like 10 people who have 999 and they're like legends in the community and stuff like that. But then as it's striated out to like, okay, if you're level 300, then you're like you're an elite or whatever. But among them, then you have like that's like the like the home run count in baseball or something. Like there's a whole bunch of people with under 100. There's a bunch of people at 100, and then at 200 is whatever. And once you get like 300 or something, it starts to mean something. But then like once you get at 500, you're an elite, and then like
Yeah,
you get
it's
to
like-
the upper fight. Yeah,
it's like you're not married at that point.
yeah. Anyone getting over 700 is a virgin.
Yeah, it's like you
Um,
definitely got like some. You get to 999. They don't give you a skin. They give you like a mental health hospital.
and that's why also
you get involuntarily committed. Yeah.
that's why I think the like level transfer thing shouldn't happen, or if
Yeah.
it does
Right.
happen, it should
Agreed.
be pretty minimal.
I
Like
think-
no
yeah, okay, yeah,
hours
yeah, yeah.
transfer thing should get you
Yeah.
above 200, for example.
Yeah.
If even
I don't
that.
think they will because I think one of the points of I think the main point of this is because we've been complaining about how crappy experienced servers are now.
Mhm.
And this if they can, have more and more levels,
Mhm.
level groupings for experienced servers, then that makes a
Yeah,
big difference.
I wonder,
But
that was another thing that I was wondering is how they're going to divide those up, and they didn't know during the podcast. They said that they didn't have any ideas, and they were
Well,
looking for
maybe this
ideas.
is our chance to
Didn't
throw
wait,
our
Yeah.
didn't
coins
have
in the
any
hat.
ideas for what?
How to divide the servers up, because you know how we have the over 40 level servers now. They don't know how they're going to fix that once the level cap goes that high.
If at all.
Yeah.
It could be like oh my god, yeah, because you could have. I wonder how they're gonna do the
Level 100 plus only or something.
well,
Like that'd be
like
I
kind
think
of
they
the
could keep it.
exclusive.
I think they can keep it as it is for right now, and then maybe do like a level 150 and then a level 200, and then from there it's like at every 100 levels
maybe,
or something like
maybe.
that. It doesn't need
You
to be
know,
too broken up.
actually, You could do. There's an interesting thing that the level cap may do, is that it may dissuade people from using alts, because if you've got your
Yeah, that's
level
true.
350 server that you have to join, it's like I'm not going to play on my alt because it's just going to be puppies, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Odd, what's your ult, by the way?
Put it on
Okay,
main.
so I have my Oculus just normal account, and then I have one secret Steam alt, which I have never told anyone ever about.
Okay,
We know what it
and
is. The name is normal. The exact opposite.
normal Leviathan.
Nope, close but no.
Normal, perfectly
I play on
normal
it.
Leviathan.
I play on
like
it
perfectly
very
normal.
occasionally.
Okay.
But yeah, if you listeners out there, if you guys ever find me on my Steam alt, actually that'll never you'll literally never find me on my Steam alt. I play differently. I hold my guns differently. I don't talk. I don't move the
You
same.
hold your guns differently? No.
But he sucks
no,
just
you
as
don't.
bad.
No, you
Nerd.
don't.
It's
Sucks
like
just as
my
bad, though.
it's my like little private account.
It's your undercover federal
Oh.
agent account.
It's
I made
odds
it
me
back
time.
in the I made it back in the days of like
Team
I
name and stuff being around.
yeah,
like
team
seasons
name Arc
4.
Rivalry when
So
there was a lot of like espionage going on,
yeah,
and it was like
yeah.
I
It's your
just want to
safe
play.
space account.
I mean, it's a place that I can play that nobody will know who I am, and it's like nobody can ever bother me.
Mm-hmm. There's not all this years of baggage, positive and negative, associated with like a main account and a main name.
Kind of. I know you're saying that a bit sarcastically, but that's
No,
how
no,
it used to
I
be.
mean it
Kinda.
seriously. I mean, I get why people want to like do or play on alternate accounts or like change their name around and just kind of like go out and have fun and keep like the competitive side and competitive like persona that you've cultivated over time separate from
Yeah.
just playing in a pub. Like I
Because
get that. And I think that's a
whenever
good
you
thing.
go into a pub, you have to be like I always I don't have to warm up, but like if I don't warm up before I play, or I don't like get ready in some capacity, it's like, oh, look at Odd, he's not playing very well.
Yeah. And then
I've
in
kind
map
of
2
given
you're
up on that
finally
lately.
warmed up, but you spent map 1 in like a league match or something warming
Yeah,
up
oops.
basically.
That was today. By the way, I did not warm up. Castle, I'm sorry. Actually, I did tell him that I didn't warm up, but
Odd. But
Yeah.
real quick, I want to circle back, Cycle Circleback to the like level caps or not level caps, lobbies thing. Like I don't think
Yeah.
we've already got if the distance from 1 to 100 stays exactly the same as it is and always has been, then maybe one more category after 40 plus could be made.
100
But I
plus.
really don't think
No.
you need anything more than that. Like
It-
40 to 100 already is like not super exclusive, obviously, but it's pretty exclusive. It's pretty clear that
That's true.
anybody who's level 40 is at least somewhat experienced. I've
I don't know about
like
that.
not
I
league,
would
not
totally
like
disagree.
pro player league level. Let me make that clear.
I played in
But
an
I've met
experience
few
server the other day
people-
that was.
I've met few people level 40 that have no clue what is going on, because you have to spend so much time being clueless in this game just to make it to 40. Not as much as 40 to 100, but like that is, I would say, a decent bar
here's
for
the problem.
experience. And if you
Here's
have
the
one thing
thing.
after that, that makes sense with this level cap, like level 70 to 999 or something like that.
Here's the
No,
problem. Is that
no.
all the here's what happens. Is that the players that are before level 100, right? Or that are level 40, right? You know what they're doing. They're playing with like the level 10s and the level 20s. Then finally they get in a server with a level 100. And it's like, oh my god, I've been practicing against like pigeons that have bought headsets, right?
I think
And
it
so-
all depends on how fast you could level up to 999. If God, I hope they don't do this. But if it's only like a years long thing, then it doesn't matter how they break up the servers. In a year, we're going to have the same exact problem. If it is a thing where it is, again, this Sisyphusian task, if it is just a slog to get all the way up to 999, then the people who are actual passionate players and that sort of stuff, they're going to be in the levels in the hundreds and stuff like that. The 7 and 8 year olds who play on weekends and share the thing with their brothers and sisters
their
and all that sort of
pants.
stuff, and they sit around there at like the low level hundreds or whatever. Like that's one thing, but like, so I don't think just adding 70 to 100 is going to do anything, and then leave it open 100 and beyond, because like we said, everyone's already 100 and no one's proud about it. You need to have some more levels above that, but like at some point, again, if it takes a long time to get through all these levels, then at some point you're going to be like, at level 300, I think someone said earlier, or level 500 or something like that. It's like once you get up to that level, then you've played enough, you're passionate enough that you're probably not like some rage quitting douchebag who can't handle playing against
Yeah.
really good players, and you can handle your own and be enough of a challenge that someone just doesn't kill you 100% of the time they interact with you and all that. So past 100, like I said, I would maybe, if they're going to add it all the way up to 999, I would think 40, the way they have it up to 100 is fine right now. But then after that, maybe one more break between 100 to 200. And then after 200, maybe a break after like 500 or something like that. And then leave it alone. Because at some point, once you reach that level, then you should be able to handle whatever's thrown at you.
Oh,
And you should be enough of a challenge for any high level players to where they're not just bored playing you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm just I'm just thinking of like how many people are you going to end up even playing with if you're in a level 500 plus only lobby? Like you might as well just make a private lobby at that point.
Well, the thing
Right.
is, they wouldn't
And-
they wouldn't even have to reserve those servers until a certain number of people get to those levels. I mean, they're not. And once they
True. Yeah.
release 999, they're not going to have the level 800 to 999 servers set up, because those servers would never get played on.
Because those players
So
don't
those
exist yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those things will be introduced as they have a significant number of people at those levels anyway. So I have confidence that they'll figure out. Well, I don't know, the way they did it initially was not fantastic. Leaving it 40 to 100. I always thought they should have left it at 80 to 100. Makes a lot more sense. But maybe they thought about that too, and it's just like it's going to be harder for these servers to fill up if you have to be at 80. So yeah, I can see why.
There's always some amount of like filler person that you want to have, right?
I think I had suggested to them before, and I don't know how easy it would be to implement it this way, but I suggested before that it might be better to have like servers done based on hours of play. You know what I mean? Instead of level, because level doesn't mean much. You could go farm levels and stuff, but if it's hours
Level
of play,
correlates pretty well with your like
not
actual...
really, dude. Not when like a father lets his kid play on his thing and he's a level 100, and then this 5-year-old squeaker is in your experience lobby.
There's no way to tell if someone else is playing on it. Like it's the level is the easiest, closest thing, in my opinion, to how experienced are you. My computer's like on fire.
You think your level
it's the
correlates
closest...
more to how experienced you are versus your hours in game?
I think that those two correlate really closely is my because if you...
Well, they don't correlate those two among themselves, because you're capped at 100. So it might take you like, I don't know, it might take you I don't know how long, 100 hours to get to a level 100 or something like that. But then you can get up to 1,000 hours, but you're still at a level 100.
Right. So it's going to be less of a problem when the new level thing comes out.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Orklum, if you're listening to this, don't give people free levels.
I think that your hair looks really good. You look much better than you did a year ago.
He's always had that long hair. We saw a picture of him like years ago, and he always had hair like that. But
but he
now
looks
Odd's
better than he
saying
did.
that it's well taken care of.
Yeah, he looks less homeless.
Maybe he just actually watched it this time before getting on the podcast.
No,
Right.
no,
That's not
you
his
know,
usual.
now you're talking crazy.
All right, so interesting conversation about level 999. I am excited for that, and I
Yeah.
just
I'm
fingers
saying
crossed.
it.
I'm hoping it's not an easy task to get to 999. I hope it's hard as fuck to
I'm
get to
saying it-
999.
I'm saying it here first. I'm going to be the first to 101.
Oh,
That's
To
my
101.
Yep.
Okay,
You're gonna be
you
waiting for them
set
to
yourself
drop the update and then just
you
play
set
your ass
yourself a
off.
very low bar here, and I respect that. I do that.
Low bars are easy bars. And that's where I'm
Yes.
setting it.
That you know what? This seems very appropriate for your skill level.
What is that supposed to mean? 1v1 me, Odd. Come on.
Okay, sure.
real quick, since we're on. Oh, okay, so you'll 1v1 Goose, but not Lat. Here.
We're
So
gonna cut the podcast here. We're gonna go to the one
We are?
Yeah.
with Odd and
A
Goose.
live
Yeah,
Oh,
and then we'll
there
be
we
back.
go.
sweet. Alright.
Real quick though, before we move
My
on
headset's
from
right
level
here.
stuff, I just want to note that I checked the Dash index. By the way, if you're on Discord, especially if you're in the league and you're not in the Dash index server, what are
You're
you doing?
stupid.
Get
You're
on it.
stupid, and we hate
But
you. We don't want to. We don't want to
There's
talk to you.
currently like
Don't
more
join the
than
server.
800 people playing, and a large majority of the servers are
Right now, there's
between-
800 people playing.
currently, yes, right now.
What? That's fucking crazy. What?
And a majority of the servers are between level 1 and 39, so below
Yeah,
level
yeah.
40. That's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
probably 80% of the servers right now.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Lat, if 2.5 years ago, on launch day, they said there's 800 people playing the game right now. What would you say?
Oh man.
They probably just
don't know, I
convulse on the
wonder-
ground or something.
Well, I wonder how many there actually were. Like, you mean on release?
Yeah, release day.
I don't know. How many do you think there actually were? Because I know in the league we had probably 300 something players in the league. We had over
Yeah.
300 players in the league at
now
some
we're down
point.
to, like,
we're down to like
30.
250 or so. No, we're at like 250 or something. We did. I think the most teams we ever had was 37 or 38.
It was 30.
And now we're down to like
30.
24 teams. There might have been
You-
36.
Okay,
but
here's
now
the
we're down to
question.
like.
Do you think that that's a bad thing, or do you think it's just kind of regressing to the mean?
So that's what I was about to get to. Is that even though we've lost like overall numbers of players, we are getting a lot of new players. And my thought is, one of the things that Dev told us about like growing the budget so we could do more things and whatever was like, if you have to grow the league to grow the budget from where it is right now.
Mhm.
And so my whole thing is like the league itself, if you're just looking at total numbers, is sort of stagnant, not quite growing. Except we did add the 3v3 league, so this season it literally did grow when we combined the two leagues. But
Wait, we
the
combined
thing
the
is,
two
it's like-
leagues?
no, when you combine the total numbers of the two leagues, when you add them up, but no.
That's cheating. You can't do that.
You
I'll
were
do
saying
that.
that.
But if you think about like a lot of the players that have left the league, they haven't left the game. They just, for whatever reason, they go to college or they get a new job or they get their first job or they have a kid. Circumstances change to where they can't play all the time, but they'll
Get
still play
circumcised.
Hyperdash when they can. Their circumcisions change, so they can't play all the time. And so a lot of the old players that we have that aren't in the league anymore are still playing the game, but the new players that we bring in are
They
now
suck.
we're
We hate you
bringing
all.
in these new people and they get like involved in the community and stuff and they stick around and whatever. So our total numbers have dropped, but we are growing,
I'm
the
like
overall number
old.
of the community and stuff.
We're like
that.
old, Lat. We're like old people. Isn't that weird to think about?
You saying
Like,
old
compared
people
to
and Lat saying old people have very different connotations, though,
Well,
even within this game.
Well, I'm older than Lat is, like by quite a bit.
By 2
Which
months.
is yeah, no, it's definitely more than that. Fuck off.
No, I started playing in February. You started playing in December when the game came out.
Okay, well, you sucked really when the game came out. Wait, what?
When the alpha, are you talking about our age in Hyperdash?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you're also like an old fart.
Alpha 1 came out in December, and I started
Oh,
playing at the end of
sorry.
February or
Yeah.
early March, Alpha 3. Yeah.
Okay.
You better be sorry,
Okay.
Odd.
Yeah. Odd is a sorry excuse for a human being. We'll move on to lobby changes now.
Yeah, and I think this is the most
Um,
exciting to me personally.
They cordoned it off with construction tape when they were showing the picture. I thought
Okay,
that was
Wait.
funny.
What?
so I'll go last. But you guys tell me. Odd, you shut up for a little while. You give other people a chance to talk.
Okay.
I
No,
want
that's rich coming from Lat of all people.
I
But
know,
I
I
get
know.
Ooh,
it.
you spoke for like
I
45
usually-
minutes in the first podcast.
I usually don't try to interrupt as much, though. I'll let people speak when they start speaking. But I've had cocaine before this podcast.
No. See, you've got it all wrong. I didn't have the cocaine.
Yeah, I think
So I
Odd's
want
right
to
here.
hear. I want to hear everyone's take on what they would like to see for lobby changes. Let's hear from Goose first.
Okay, so to me, I feel like those shooting ranges on each side of the like the team spawns in the lobby are just not useful at all. Like it's cool that you can like aim at the cutout cardboard or whatever, but I would love to see like a proper shooting range with like maybe bots walking around, or like some bots having like some sort of like ping difference so that you can like train on that too, or like some bots doing like the sprint strafing, like just something to make it more useful. And I don't know, it's just it seems like a very wasted opportunity with those shooting ranges, and I feel like they could improve them so much. And I don't know if that's something that they would add to the middle of the lobby, but I think that would be a great option, just to have improvements to that.
Or
Yeah,
even
what
just
else?
like some differential targets. Like you've
Yeah.
got one target per section in the range. And the range is a
Yeah.
good idea, but that's just one thing to shoot at, and there's all this empty space.
It
And
would
that's
be
not even talking about like the area that they separated off that they're probably working on.
right. And the other thing is like some sort of like I don't like parkour is the wrong term, but like some sort of like maybe an obstacle course that like you can like dash like up to like ledges
your
and
dashes,
different kind of
yeah.
thing, and like train on that before you actually get into the map. I don't know if that would just be a waste of time, or like if people would even use it, but like I find myself wanting to like just practice my dashing in the lobby before we get into like a league match, and like there's just nowhere to do it. Like I dash between the two little ledges by the scoreboard, but like that's about it. Like it'd be nice to have like rails and stuff that you could just like practice with. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, just anything to do
Yeah.
when you're in the lobby, because sometimes you just got to sit there for a little bit, and this is such a like ADHD game where you're doing stuff all the time, that sitting in lobby for 30 seconds, especially when you really get into this game, feels like an eternity, man. And I know it's really not logically, and especially talking to people, time passes, and sometimes you just hang out in lobby on purpose, especially
Yeah.
before league matches you're hanging out, but like having some sort of random jungle gym or something just around the lobby is like not unprecedented for tons of other games too, even outside of VR, to like just have stuff going on. And like you go into breachers lobbies, they have a goddamn basketball court. Like I bet they're going to be taking inspiration from that, like not the basketball court specifically, but like the idea of having just stuff to futz around with.
They need
when
a
you're in
big
lobbies.
screen. They need a big screen showing league matches, just reruns.
Yeah,
So-
or showing
Yeah.
this, playing this cast in the background, just blasting it.
So this
Um,
is
Um,
this is. Oh, are you wanna?
Well, I was just gonna comment on Goose's obstacle. That's something I never even thought of. Like, I think everyone thinks that the shooting range needs to change so you can practice your aim, but also being able to practice your mechanics is a good idea too. If they had an obstacle course like you're describing with, strategically placed dashes, then you could loop around the obstacle course and land on the dashes and just never stop if you're fast enough and that sort of stuff. And that would really help people with their dash ability.
Yeah, just like
I think-
floating blocks hanging out in the empty space.
Yeah. I think people learning how to dash right in this game is one of the last skills that comes to them, because it's not always intuitive. Like one of the things you notice on a lot of less experienced players is they take short dashes. Like they'll
Mhm.
go over a platform that you could dash in one dash, but they take 2 or 3 to get there. Like the people you watch you dash 10 feet in front of themselves, like what are you doing? You're just wasting your
Yeah,
energy.
you're
So yeah,
stupid.
an obstacle course that yeah. Anyway, what were you gonna say, Odd?
So this is something that I've noticed. Who was the person here that played Knock? Was it?
That
I
was
have
me.
played Knock before, but
Okay.
Goose
Oh, but
definitely plays it
I
more.
brought it up before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So I think everyone here has like opened the game once, right?
Yeah.
So this is something that I've seen that's kind of new to VR as a space, and it's the idea of instead of having players wait around like on a queue screen, which most games do, is that you have them wait in like a playground, basically, right? Like in Knock, they have this great like baby sensory area. Is the best way I could put it. It's
Yeah,
this
I know
like
what you
giant
mean.
like it's just a like giant fun wonderland that you just kind of fuck around in, and I think that that kind of a thing for Hyperdash, like just a like a big area with a bunch of things to dash, and you can like free combat and you could shoot people, whatever. I think that would be a really nice. Just like even if you just you don't really want to play a game or a formal mode, you just kind of want to hang out. You could just spend some time in there, you know.
in the baby sensory room.
Yeah.
Yes. You want to shoot those infants, you want to be able to murder the infants.
Sensory overload.
Yeah, I think that would be a good. And I know, actually, I don't know this. I suspect, for legal reasons, I only suspect that Vale is working on something like this, and their aim is to be a really social game, right? So this is a new thing, I would say, for VR, like a new-ish thing. And I think more game developers moving in this direction is a good idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just makes sense for a lot of games to have, like in their
Yeah.
pre-map lobby, to have their little VR chat space, to where if
Yep.
you want to just socialize, you can, because it's VR. You're not sitting here with a controller staring at a screen. Like you're actually walking around and can move your arms, and I hope the devs will bring separate leg movement once we get more. Like that would be something I would like to see, is the devs allow for legs to move separately or whatever, if you have the right hookup for that. But anyway, just having a little social space right there in the lobby.
Yeah.
But I agree, yeah.
I think that
What about
the
you?
biggest the biggest driving factor behind this, and I know this is a philosophy that Triangle Factory has actually had for a long time, is that I talked to Harun about this. About is that how you say his name? Who knows? He's not here to correct me.
Who?
Joe Ren.
Yorin.
It's more like a Y. It's,
Yorin.
Yeah,
Yorin.
Yorin.
like that kind of.
Yeah,
Urine,
I talked to him
right? It was called-
many years
yeah.
ago about why we don't have a queue system. And he basically told me that one of his core ideas is that people hate to sit around in VR. Only like crazy, insane people will sit in a Wands lobby for 4 hours on end waiting for one duel, staring at the starry sky, right? Like normal people don't do that. They get on for 2 minutes, they're like, meh, 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 and then they quit, right?
Well,
So
that's
you
an
need to
idea.
give-
Yeah,
you
when we
give
get to
people
the
something
meta
to do.
changes. Yeah, when we get to the meta changes, that's one of the idea things I had, was a queue system that I'll lay out and see what you guys think about it.
Okay, I think it's bad already, just because I don't like you.
Yeah. Gala, what about changes for you that you'd like to see in the lobby?
Well, I mean, the obstacle course for one, like I
Yeah.
talked about. But one thing that would be interesting is if you, for everyone in the audience, if you have seen like the award ceremonies and such that are on the Dash League channel, we're in like a separate VR space, but the space that we're using has a map or ability to select different maps and look at them three-dimensionally. Now, I'm not expecting that sort of thing exactly gets put into this new lobby space, but something where you can see the map you're going to play on, or that is like currently the most voted, or even just see all the maps like laid out top down. You get a general idea of what it looks like rather than being completely lost when you're first hopping in, or just some sort of in lobby way to like look at what is going on with a map. It would be
that would be
interesting to do with that space.
That would be
Mm.
so good for league matches to be on those
Yeah.
tables that are in the conference rooms,
Yep.
like, and so that captains could be like, all right, you're going here, push up this way, yada yada yada. Like I think that would be
Mhm.
so good.
I
So
think
I
also
think
for
I think
beginners.
that's.
That.
Well, I was gonna say I think that's been the most requested thing that they add to the lobby for years now. Like everyone's wanted. Yeah, Gollum. That's something that we've been talking about since early alpha. That we want hologram maps. Like you're saying, Goose, put it on the table. Give us a little pointer to where we can point to like certain stuff. We could really plan it out in the conference room because the conference room in there is just like this table with nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been
Oh.
requested so much. I would love that. It seems like a really hard thing to implement, but
Hmm.
yeah, I would love that. Hard thing to implement, but they do have it in that little VR chat room. Like
Yeah.
if Pixel Witch who made that can get that in that VR chat room, I don't see why a team of devs can't get it in the lobby. That would be
Just
awesome.
copy and paste, bro. It's not that hard.
Mm.
Yeah, bro.
It's free.
Control Z,
It's
Control
free.
V. That,
Yeah.
Actually free.
What were you gonna say, Odd?
I don't know.
Okay, screw it. What else?
End of that.
Any other ideas, Gollum, that you
Wait,
had?
no, wait. Nah, it's gone.
Okay.
Oh my god.
So, anyways, back on my boat. I mean, stuff to interact with. People love just hitting the button anytime it pops up, and that
Man.
weird glitch that happens sometimes in lobbies where the button's popped up in the middle, but hitting it doesn't do anything because you're in a private lobby. I don't know what causes that, but people like just interacting with stuff and getting that like vibration in the hands. So some miscellaneous, like I mean, Odd, you joked about the knock baby stimulation room, but like
it literally is that. That's what it is.
we
right?
all used to be babies at one point. We're still
I'm
all
still
big
a baby.
babies, no matter how
Yeah.
grown we are. So having just like
Right?
little
Exactly.
stimulatory stuff in the lobby, like a bunch of little things, or even just
That'd be
a
Well,
ton of
yeah,
the same type of little thing
and
could
like-
make a huge difference in the lobbies being enjoyable.
If they had all the pickups too, that would be helpful too. So you could
Yeah.
experiment with like all
Like a
the
gun
weapons.
range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They
I
have a bunch
remember.
of like baby rattles spread all over the floor.
Yeah, there we go.
I remember what I wanted to say like a couple minutes ago. I
Go.
think that they need to do some work making like tutorials and stuff for the game more accessible. Like the like what is that series that like Quad and Flippy made, like the Dashing for Idiots?
I
don't
don't
remember.
remember. That might be what it was called.
Yeah, the Dashing for Idiots thing. I think that it would not be very hard to just have like a series of links to, of course I have a bunch of material, so I'm somewhat biased, but just a way that you could have players like really easily be like, oh, here's a tutorial on the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, so many players go into this game and they're like, I don't know what to do. I don't understand how any of this works, right? I have no
Yeah.
clue what the fuck to do. And just like a dude there to talk you through.
You know what would be
Even-
cool?
Yeah.
On the training tab there, they could have like little,
YouTube
little
links or something.
sections. I was about to say they could put your like the community YouTube links that you guys have done up there to watch, and then also some little training courses, like an obstacle course sort of thing, like what's in the lobby and stuff. You can
Because
just do it
they
offline.
do have that tutorial thing, but I've only
Yeah,
played it one time when I
it-
got the game.
It's not helpful at all. I feel like they would need
Yeah, it's
like
kind of not great.
It's not
like
helpful.
even if they
It's-
spawned you on like Launchpad and they're like, step onto the cart, see how it moves. Or if they had a bot jump on the cart and you're on defense and they're like, jump on the cart, see how it doesn't move. There you go. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that tutorial is good enough to teach you the basics of the mechanics.
yeah.
well,
And so
I
it
feel like
serves its purpose in that regard, but it's not something you can use to like improve skill.
I feel like
Which is more
the
what you're talking
tutorial,
about.
what the tutorial does as current, which is about all it really can hope to do, is that it
It tells you
it
the
shows
controls.
it's like if you're trying to learn how to like sing, it would show you a diagram of the parts of the mouth, right? It doesn't teach you how to talk or how to sing, but it's like, okay, look at all this stuff, figure out how to put it together, because the people that put it together is us. We're the ones who make this shit.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to put that into a tutorial. So I don't blame them, but that's why they could put more community stuff in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean,
Because
an opening tutorial like that it serves its purpose. It shows you how to dash and lets you figure out which button is your dash button, how to
right.
shoot, which button. The absolute basics that you can then get into the game and move around and stuff, and then that's where your learning is in the game. But you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
adding some like skill trials and stuff like that that you can access through training. Or we talked about on another on one of our earlier episodes about back when I would play in UT 2004, they would have oh trials, whatever they were, skill trials, whatever. I forget what exactly they were called, but like really, really difficult obstacle courses that like you fail at over and over and over, and then
Oh, yeah.
you know
Path
finally
through.
get that jump. Yeah, and then you fail at the next jump, but you go through all the ones that you were failing before, but you learn how to do them, and eventually you get to the end. But something like that would be really cool, but also multiplayer as well, like some you know, a different like skills trial game type or something that you could go join with friends only or something like that would be really cool. But um, anyway, so I agree with a lot of what you guys were saying about going into the lobby. So I have my list here. Goose saying change the shooting range. I totally agree. They first off, the little cardboard cutouts are completely useless. They don't even move. They're all at aren't they all at like the same distance too?
No, they're
So
like staggered, but still.
yeah,
They're good. Like if you
what they
thought like, maybe I could use something good to shoot at, maybe you
I
might
think
think of this, but it's not useful.
yeah, I think what they need to do is they need to take out all the stalls there and just have a bunch of bots walking around and some different elevated some ledges and stuff the bots can jump up to. Like the bots don't shoot back at you, but they have some bot pathing that they're moving around, and you can either and you can the stalls just get in the way. You can't move laterally and then try to shoot stuff while you're like moving laterally or dashing around and stuff like that. So get rid of the stall walls and then just have bots moving around in there on again different elevations and stuff like that that you could shoot at. And you should have all the gun pickups there so that you can practice all of them. You should have a dash pickup in somewhere in the lobby so you can move around the lobby however you want and whatever. And I also think in the shooting range they should show you give you a damage counter when you land a shot. So if you do a headshot
Oh.
with a pistol, it's like okay, that was 50 damage. If you do a body shot with a pistol, it's like okay, that was what is it, 19 damage or something like that. So you could because it took months and months, maybe years before any players knew the exact damage count on any of the guns in the game, and eventually the devs released it, and I don't even know where that is anymore. So I still don't
No,
know all the
no,
damage
okay.
count of the guns.
They like
I know how
totally
many bullets.
didn't. I don't think
Say
they
what?
did. I think it was a player made thing. It was like a
Maybe.
player made chart that I
Maybe.
think maybe Sir Void or something put together.
I'm
He's like a
pretty
big
sure
nerd,
we asked
so
I thought we asked the devs and they verified it. Anyway, all we know is like how many bullets it takes to do whatever, which is fine. But it'd be nice to show like a damage counter, especially for the rockets and shocks, to show like how much damage you're doing when when the shock is a little bit when the area of damage is a little bit off to the side. You don't kill someone with that first
Yeah.
shot. Well, how much damage did that actually do then? So that would be cool. I agree with the obstacle course. That's not something I thought about, but that would be cool. And one thing that I would like is two other things I would like to see. And I talked to Yaron about this stuff like years ago, and he always said that he wanted to do lobby changes, but he just wasn't allowed to because they didn't want to I guess waste dev time on improving the lobby when they could have been doing. I think they were just working on breachers at the time, basically. It's like
Mhm.
we're not bringing people back to Hyperdash to work on the freaking lobby. Let's work on breachers, whatever. So Jerome always wanted to do stuff and never really did. But so I've suggested a lot of this stuff to him. I hope that they do this stuff now. But another one of the things I wanted to see is that whole bottom area down there is there for literally no reason, and we could give it a purpose by give us a staircase to go down to that area, and within that area is some sort of like coliseum sort of thing where like players can enter. You can enter this space after you cross a barrier or something like that, but not a barrier like the red and blue walls, because I think we should have some standings around the little Coliseum area so people can watch if people want to go in there in 1v1 or something like that. But you create an area down there that's kind of like, say, like Pit is, or like a paintball course where it has some obstacles, things you can hide behind,
Oh,
things you can jump on. Create some like sightline areas down there. Create some close combat areas in there. Have some gun pickups, health pickups, like stuff like that in there. And it could be like a little 1v1 space or something where we could watch these, gladiator style battles. And
no.
or 10 people can flood in there. They all just fuck around shooting each other and whatever. It's like when you're inside the barrier area, they can even keep a kill count, a death count, and a damage count. When you leave, it'll erase it or whatever. So you could just do constant 1v1s in there or whatever. But a place for us to actually fight and it could even be a place where we teach people fighting skills and stuff like that. Because one of the things that's kind of annoying with the game right now is if ever you try to do a walkthrough with a map, there's always a time limit. And when I talked to the devs about the practice mode mutator, one of the things I wanted was like something to cut the time limit off. And I don't know why they didn't do that. I don't understand why we can't just have a no time limit map. It's not like we're going to have the server reserved for 8 years or something. It's like eventually we're going to leave and the server's going to go away. Just let us be on Launchpad for a fucking hour instead of 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So anyway, it would be having a space like that in the lobby would have a way to like have some sort of training area with no time limit and that sort of stuff. And then the other thing I would like to see is one thing that we've always really enjoyed as players in the game is glitching through the lobby. Now, I understand that fixing glitches in maps and stuff like that, of course, you want to fix the glitches in the maps. But in the lobby, it doesn't hurt anybody to let them glitch through
And then you
walls. Try to
fixed it.
explore. Yeah, every time they see it, usually it'll get exposed on a cast. Or some rat goes and tells the devs, hey, you can glitch out right here. And the devs always try to fix it. Now, there's still a way to get out of the lobby. I hope the devs never figure out what it is. But you could still get out of the lobby. But it's so much harder now than it used to be. And I think in the lobby, just embrace it. I think what they should do is create a little Easter egg glitch pathway to like a lounge or something like that. It shouldn't be too easy to find. We should have like the glitch hunters going out there and trying to find this space or whatever. But it's like this glitch pathway where you're glitching through walls. You have to glitch through the next wall, kind of like a trials course, like I was talking about before. You learn how to do it, and then at the end, there's this like crappy lobby, this crappy like break room or something like that with a coffee maker and a dirty sofa and a little table that you could put your lunch on. Like, I always thought that would be funny. Like, you get to the end of this glitch pathway, and here's a lounge that you can hang out in or whatever. But I think they should give us like an Easter egg glitch out area in the lobby, just because people really enjoy glitching through the lobby and they keep taking it away from us. And I think they should embrace it instead. Let us have fun.
Okay, here's what I think. This is on the same subject as glitching. But I think that they need to. Glitching is so like prevalent in the main game now. Almost all of the beginner lobbies that I join, I see some like little kid that's like sitting in a
Why
wall.
are you in beginner lobbies?
No, dumbass.
On his alt account.
Like just normal lobbies. There's like some kid sitting in a wall who's just like, hey, you can't kill me.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest, my usual way of dealing with this is that I just try and scare them really bad.
Police are coming.
The police are coming. I knew you might be. No, I don't do that. But I think that they need to just have a death box, guys. Like.
Yeah, I was about to say
I know
it would be so easy.
It's not easy.
It would be so easy to paint all the outside boundaries with just the kill zone. Like they just lower the kill zone in Volcano. Just like if this is a wall over here, throw a kill zone in there. Throw a kill zone behind this wall. Throw a kill zone under this ramp. Like that shouldn't be too difficult.
Yeah, I'm sure. I've got, of course, some like consumer blind. Well, why don't you just do this? I'm sure there's some of that, but it would be such an improvement of life for a lot of people.
I mean,
there's
that's
like
sympathetic. Yeah.
In the
Sorry, go
main
ahead.
Discord, I see like a not insignificant number of like hackers and glitchers a day. It's like a
Yeah.
good number, and it's like, guys, come on, please.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still sympathetic toward like trying to ask the devs for things that if I think it's going to be a lot of dev work, it's like sometimes I just won't ask for those things because I know they're not trying to put a whole bunch of time, whatever. But
Mm.
sometimes I'll still ask for stuff. But something
shield.
like tracing
A
a
shield.
kill line or something on a behind a wall or behind a rock or something like that, that can't possibly take a whole bunch of time. With their map maker tool or Unity or whatever, it's got that can't be all that difficult of a process. So I think that makes sense, and it would be a good thing for the game to cut that shit out of the main maps. So who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe they'll do that.
And the shield, Orcalum, if you're listening, please
I'm listening.
implement the shield change. It's so easy. You just flip the graphic 180 degrees up and down and make it so much better.
So
Anyway,
Orculum
okay,
told
right
me that he mutes it when you speak. So he listens to us. He does not listen to you.
Okay.
All right. So
I would
two
do the
more
same.
things. Two more things to get to here. First, let's talk about the map retreads. So they've done this already as a way to sort of give us some more maps without actually making more maps, in how they turned Coast also into a ball map. They turned Stadium into a ball and a CTF map. And one of the things Orkla mentioned was that they intend to do more retreads. He already says there's some other maps where they'd be really good for other game types. I think he said Volcano would be good for Control Point. That would be interesting to see. I wonder if Volcano was turned into a control point. I wonder what would incentivize us to go to where the old home buttons were. Like, what's out there that would make anyone go there? Otherwise,
I mean,
it's
if you just
spawn
put
to be,
armor on the
spawn to be.
button, that's already that plus like flanking maneuvers, I feel like are the two big things. Flanking maneuver, you don't gotta change anything about the map, but if you can put like a shield pickup where the button was, I feel like that could do it. That would do it for me.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd say that
but
much.
but that's a huge flank. That's a huge time wasting flank over there, especially if the dash pickups are kept the same way.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to get to that home button dash, and whereas you could 4-dash to the action where it is at B, you can 4-dash just to get to the dash over at the flank, and then you have to dash all the way back. And if someone already took that, you're just kind of stranded out there. Yeah, so some armor out there or something. So just I hope they think about that. I hope they make those areas useful. Otherwise, it's going to be weird to have those whole open spaces, and the only advantage of them is that it's a flank, but because it's just such a long flank. It's like if you have a teammate who, this is something I'll get into later when we talk about weapon balancing and stuff. But when you have a teammate that stands there and grabs one shotgun, they stand there for 10 seconds and wait for the second shotgun. But it's like, you are wasting time.
Yeah.
We need you over here. Get into the action. So if you have someone flanking all the way around on Volcano, it's like, you are wasting time. Go straight to the button. It's like Stadium works out so well because, yes, you
It's
can
the only
flank,
place you can really
but the
go.
flanks are, yeah, but there's side areas, but they're like a couple dashes from the button. If you're over at the button, at the home button, it's like 7 dashes, 8 dashes to get to B. It's just not a good flank if the only goal is like a control point style goal at B. It's such a waste of time. So something to incentivize it, or maybe reposition the dash pickup to like that, to the ramp or something that goes down to the button, and then give another dash pickup maybe where that health pickup is over there, something like that, so that if you want to flank, you can flank real quick, something like that. So anyway, I hope they think about that, but they will be doing some map retreads. And do you guys have are there any maps that you guys can think of that would do well as a different with a different game type? Like any maps you think, well, this game type would work on this map, and they don't have that yet?
I mean, Waterway seems like another domination you could turn into a control point, but beyond that, like,
Yeah,
if you're just switching buttons around, button access around, and like turning what a button does on and off, like with in the overtime that are so rare on domination maps, where the buttons still exist at your home, but you just turn them off, basically. I feel like it's kind of difficult to make bigger changes than that with how all the maps are laid out, unless you make like a race mode for payload, which would be
I feel
interesting.
like they could open up some of the maps to deathmatch and team deathmatch.
Yeah.
Like Volcano and Stadium could be opened up to deathmatch.
I bet that they could. This is like not what you were asking, but they could change payloads so that they could lower the time a lot, but make it so that if you've got 2 people on the payload, it moves like 60% faster, like 80% faster, and see how that changes the dynamic.
It'd be like a vehicle.
That would be interesting.
Well,
yeah, like a real car.
Bring that back up when we get to meta changes, because I got some ideas for that too. But for now, let's stick with the maps. But
maps,
I agree that
good.
I agree that just about anything you could apply deathmatch to it, because deathmatch is applicable to an asymmetrical map. Metropolis is asymmetrical, Crater is asymmetrical. Deathmatch just works as long as you have a good spawn scheme. Where I think the way the spawning scheme works in the deathmatch maps, other than team deathmatch, that one's a little bit different. But it's like wherever you die, wherever the opponent is that killed you, or wherever most of the opponents are on the map at the time that you're spawning, it spawns you at the furthest point away from all that, so that you have a little bit of safety as you spawn to go get a dash or a weapon pickup, instead of just like spawning right in the middle of where everybody is and just getting killed right away in the spawn. So you could apply that to any of the maps, any of the asymmetrical maps, and I think that would be fine. Waterway would be a great stadium or control point, I think. Just like they can do some structural changes, I think, to the maps. Not huge overhauls. I don't think they're looking to do that with these retreads. But on the coast retread, they added that whole middle space for ball. And so, if you could add like some structure here and there, I feel like they could maybe make some small adjustments to Volcano and especially Waterway to make it a little bit different of a play style than, of course, it being control point, it would change the play style. But also, I would like the way you fight on the map to be a little bit different, because if you just have Waterway and literally all you do is make a control point and you deactivate the home buttons, but everything else is the same, then it's still just going to be a pistol sniping sort of,
They're just gonna splash the button with explosives the whole time. Yeah.
So maybe
there's
something
a reason
where
shocks aren't on control point.
Yeah.
At the same time, like, I wouldn't want you to not be able to like pistol snipe and shock the button there, because that would make it so chaotic and so fun. But anyway, I'm not necessarily, I don't know what kind of change I would want to Waterway, but I think Waterway would make a great control point map, better than Volcano, I think. And if they're viable, then we could actually add those as options for tiebreakers. Although it would be really weird to play payload Waterway with Waterway control point. So we might have to like offset the waterways in the map rotation or something like that.
But I mean, this is also a good illustration of Odd's point from earlier, that a lot of the times players or games know they want something, but they don't know what they want until they got it, or they got something that's close to it, or the opposite of what they want. It's hard to know if you're not playtesting any of it.
Well, what do you guys think about, I think Orklum, it wasn't something they talked about a lot, but if I remember correctly, I think he mentioned, just as kind of like a throwaway comment, maybe a new map here and there or something like that. I know that the cast was about 2024. I think he mentioned there's a possibility of a new map, but I cannot remember exactly. But if there's a new map to come, what game type would you want it to be in?
I don't know, man. I mean, I love payload, man. I love it so much. I've got tons of experience on that, and we just most recently got a new domination. And if we're just talking about those two game modes from a competition perspective, then new payload would be fun. But that obviously takes probably the most work out of any map and game type to develop. But I mean, if we're just going for like hopeful, that's my hopeful. There's all these other game types and game modes like deathmatch. A new deathmatch map maybe would be fun. There's like the pit and rig.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm all about payload and control point and domination.
I feel like this
Just
is
like any
another
other league
topic
player.
that we're thinking about from like a competition standpoint, and
Yeah.
like not like what would the general populace enjoy, because like we only have one capture the flag map, like dedicated capture the flag map. So
you got the control point one, and that one's actually pretty fun because it's so short, and that's like the opposite of what some people complain about for the bigger capture the flag.
And Coast gets voted on a lot in pubs. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but
oh yeah, usually by non-competitive players though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Usually when Coast is on there, I don't usually see other. And when I go into Coast, it's like to practice pistol sniping.
Right.
That's
right.
it. I love capture the flag. It's such a fun game type in other games, but the Coast is just such a massive map. And you know, I was going to bring it into the league originally, and the league community they were going to burn me at the stake if I did that. It got shut down so hard, and the league is always afraid of change, and sometimes you just do stuff anyway. But Coast was it just never seemed to be all that viable competitively in terms of like general league consensus. And it's something I've put off for a long time. I never really did, but I considered at one point to like open up a thread about, okay, how do we make Coast viable for the league? And try to come up with ideas like, what does this map need to make people want to play it in the league? And you know, so a new capture the flag map would be interesting. Maybe something we could add to the league. I think honestly, I would like another. Of course, I'm more focused on the competitive side. That's what I like, and even outside of playing league matches and stuff, those are the three game types I like the most: are payload, domination, and stadium. And I mean, yes, I would love a new payload map. I always vote for all three payload maps before I vote for anything else. It's like once I've played those three, it's like, all right, if you want to play Waterway, fine. But what I would really want is a new control point map. Give people a little bit of variety for the tiebreaker, because it's always been stadium, and it's worked out because stadium doesn't get played all that much because we don't have. I mean, we have a good amount of tiebreakers, but it's just most teams do it once or twice, maybe 3 times a season. So so they play stadium about as much as they play the other maps. So it's a decent rotation, but a little bit of choice there would be good. And yeah, if they retread Waterway and Volcano, maybe those could be there for tiebreakers. But it would be interesting to see their new take on a fresh control point map, because Stadium Control Point was the first map in the game, so it is the oldest map. They took it away for a while they had to work on it and stuff, because again, it was the first map, and after some feedback and stuff, they took it off, and I think that's when they had Blue, which was Canyon, and they had Orange, which is Launchpad, and they had Gray, which was Quarry. And they had those three maps. It was one of
the very first.
Yeah. You were there. What was the map order? Stadium was first, and then
Stadium, and then Blue, and then I think Gray, and then I think Orange, and then Yellow.
Yeah.
And
what
then
was Yellow?
Yellow is Waterway.
Oh, okay.
And then those were.
And then Green.
They had Green. Green was the ball map. That was the giant ball map, and it was green because there was grass everywhere. But it is still to this day the biggest map in the game. You could fit 2 abysses in green.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Jeez, that's huge.
Yeah, that's why it didn't work.
It was massive. I mean, it was fun for those of this that if you've ever wanted to dash around in a giant field.
Oh yeah.
That's what green was. It was just a fucking massive field.
I think it would have been better for a ball map if they had better passing. And I had said, I know me and Fathead both sent suggestions in for how to fix passing and stuff like that, but maybe it was something they didn't want to spend the time on or whatever. But a map that huge, you need to be able to advance the ball up and pass it and move it fast. And it's so
You
hard
could
to
score
pass the
from
ball in
so
bar.
far.
Yeah, you could what?
You could score from so far away.
Oh yeah, yeah. But
was-
you just needed to be able to move the ball fast up the field. But it's so inaccurate to throw the ball and then to catch the ball and all that it was easier for one person to grab the ball and try to get to a dash and then like dash all the way with the ball through it to do whatever.
Mhm.
So it wasn't a team sport. It was like basically one person grabbed the ball and Michael Jordan the thing. So it just didn't really work. But anyway, that was green, and then the last color map was Metropolis. Do you remember the name for that one? I do. Teal, yeah.
Teal.
And and after Teal, that's when they started doing the art passes on the maps. I think
Metropolis
Canyon
was the first
one.
Oh, was it Canyon?
I think no, you're right. I think Metropolis was the first one to get an art pass. And then probably because it was the easiest one to give the art pass to, but then Canyon, and then and then they worked on the other ones. I don't remember the order after that. But if they made a new map in the game type, what would you want it to be in?
Oh gosh. I don't know, because I
Yeah.
like Payload a lot, but I don't like Abyss so much. But I didn't.
Why don't you
I
like
didn't.
Abyss? I want to be on that topic real quick. Since
I mean, I guess
it's a new topic.
I didn't like grow up with Abyss, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's weird. I think people feel differently about that because neither did I. But I like Abyss because it was something fresh. It was a darker map. It had a different theme. It wasn't like rocks and water. I mean, yeah, it's water, but it's like, it's just Abyss felt fresh when it came out to
and
me.
water. I don't know. It's not
Boxes and
it's
water
not
for
the
rocks and
same.
water.
I also don't like the roof. I don't like that it's like closed in.
I kind of
but-
like that because I
Claustrophobic,
guess it's like you're in an aquarium or something, right? So
Yeah.
it's like an underwater
Also-
base, so I don't mind it so much.
To this day, I still think that the ARQ all around that map is a reference to Arc.
ARQ.
That could be. I think that could be wrong.
There's an
but
ad
you know
that
what?
says ARQ. It's an orange
Right.
ad, I think.
Arc.
No,
French or
it's all
something?
over Abyss. No. You may. What do you think about that?
I would doubt it.
What? Because they were gonna put
Yeah.
us on the launch pad. Did you see that? They thought we were gonna win.
Well, that was a community thing. It's like, hey, whoever wins, can you give them a thing?
Hell
And
yeah.
They agreed, and it was D. So they would have put Arc there. But like, why pick Arc out of all the maps or out of all the teams and
Oh.
whatever? Give Arc a little nod instead of any of the other teams. So I don't.
Yeah, that's fair.
I
That's fair.
would.
But
I
it's
would say
so
no,
similar.
but it's fun to claim that. If
Fun
it
to
were
think.
me, I would
I've
keep
never-
claiming it. you
I've
know?
never said it to anyone. I've just looked at it and been like,
If they had an ad that said Otter, like OTTR or something like that, I'd be like, that's an Otter. It is. It's like, it's funny. Like, if you guys remember the team Org, they chose the name Org because there was an in Abyss that said Org, so that they could say, yeah, that's us. That's that's our team.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man. That was an interesting team.
What's interesting is that we can, and something I plan to do this season, we can control some ads in the game now, and champions of the season will have an ad put up in the game.
you
for
should
a
give
while.
me an ad too.
No,
Just
Oh.
no, flat out.
just no.
Okay.
Nah.
Shut that down straight away. But he'll put otters everywhere so he can talk about other.
I will put pictures of otters on the ads, and just people can remember that's the other otter.
Okay. Otter level.
He got back to me. I'm gonna call Outsider. I'll be right
Later,
back.
dude.
Oh,
my God.
fine,
All right.
fine.
We're on to our last subject, and one of the things that they talked about was you could just go. I know you want to get something from him, and he's on right now. Go talk to him, and then just come back.
I'm DMing him.
Okay, so one of the other things they talked about was like some meta changes, and they tied that in with like the polls and stuff. So like, you know, they want to get some feedback and see what people want to see as meta changes and whatever. They said ideas and suggestions are welcome. And so I'm kind of curious what you guys think about what you'd like to see for some meta changes, and we could go around and see what people think. But I've got a few I want to go through. But is there anything off the top of y'all's heads that you can think of in terms of like meta changes that you would like to see?
Meta change, like the whole meta changing?
The meta of the
like
game.
anything that relates to the meta. I've got two that come to mind. One
I've got
is
also two.
something with staples. We're gonna say something about staples, Goose.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm gonna. I'm gonna
go
get
ahead,
to that
Goose.
also.
I was just gonna say the staples, whatever they took away, I never got to experience the stapler before they changed it, but
They
I think
basically just gave it a huge damage drop off.
Yeah,
way too much.
I feel like it needs to be tweaked because it's just staples are kind of useless. I use them mainly as like when I'm like really up close and personal and I have one SMG and one stapler, or like the shotgun and the stapler, like that works.
Yeah.
But like at any sort of range, they're completely useless.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, I think part of the reason staples aren't used super often, at least in League, let's say, let's just cordon that off, is how they've been depowered from when they were overpowered before. Like something needed to change before.
I think there's a bigger reason though, and I think you're about to say what
the bigger one is where they're located.
Yeah.
I think it would be a huge change to change where pickups are. And I don't even know how I would want to change things around. I'd have to like look at a map and like give my opinion based on looking at where all the pickups currently are. But changing where a lot of the pickups are currently located, I think would change how often these things are used. Because a lot of the time the issue isn't the pickup itself, it's where it is. It's how out of the way it is to get it. And like where you get it determines how you use it to an extent. Like the shotguns tend to be in a lot of enclosed spaces, and that is good. The rockets tend to be close to spawns, or at least one is close to a spawn for a red team, and that's good because like you want a rocketeer to pick up a rocket towards the beginning and set up in a back line. Even if you're just a casual player, you don't want to be running up and suiciding that much. But some of these pickups don't seem to have any like as much rather consideration to where they're located correlating with how they're about to be used. Like the SMGs on Canyon are the one like super easy double pickup for SMGs straight into a sightline down main rail at the pre-checkpoint. At least that is like the most straightforward any SMG pickup seems to be. Staples just do not have that type of like attention to it that rockets, shotguns, and some SMGs, for example, have, and that's why they're not used.
Yeah, well, there's one map. I think the Staples path is perfect, but I agree. I think when the devs designed the game initially, they thought a lot of people would be using asymmetrical gun loadouts.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, asymmetrical gun loadouts, unless it's like an SMG and stapler, or like the shotgun
with a shield
and pistol, it's like they're hard to use because of the different reload times and the different fire rates, and like a lot of people who aren't like an area of effect weapon with a pistol, like me, because I don't use like shocks and rockets all that much. When I do grab one, or if I'm grabbing it from the other team so they can't get it or something, and I have my pistol, it's like I'm gonna shoot the ground with it because I forget that I have the rocket in my hand and kill myself. So like asymmetrical gun pickups or asymmetrical loadouts are harder. So I think most people try to get to a dual wield situation. And so let's take Canyon for example. So there's 3 staplers in Canyon. There's one outside each spawn, and then one on the square gun deck by the checkpoint. So if you want to grab a stapler and you want to dual wield staples, you can either stand there at the one at the spawn and grab one, and then waste 10 seconds and then grab another one. And I actually used to do this early League, like Season 0, Season 1, before they debuffed the staplers, I would actually stand there and wait for the stapler loadout. And I would always be like one of the lower like interactions, like terminal interactions stat players. It's like, why am I not like getting into all these fights? Oh, it's because every life I'm taking 10 seconds out of my, out of my life to like go and get these staples. So like before they even did the buff, I realized that was an issue, and I started working on just becoming a pistol main instead of staplers. And it's just, as people realize that those guns get used less and less, and the staples kind of die because there's really not good pathing for staples on most maps. And so if you want to dual wield staples without waiting for 10 seconds, you have to grab the one at the spawn and then survive all the way through to the gun deck, which means you have to cross enemy lines to get to that second one. And at that point, it's not worth it to dual wield staples. So it's just, like you said, the pathing is ridiculous. I think but at the same time, the SMG pathing is also ridiculous. So I think that you need to be able to have a pathway for dual wielding weapons that's not just like, it's the two weapons are one dash apart and whatever. It should take you, a little bit of extra time and a little bit of extra dashes to get those two, but you should have a pretty well protected route to go get those two. It should take a little bit of time, so there is a trade-off to get that loadout, but that it shouldn't be so difficult that it's just, that you just don't do it. I think a good change they could make on Canyon would be to get rid of the SMG in the spiral staircase in the silo and just make that a stapler. And then at least red team before checkpoint can dual wield staples pretty easy. And then blue team after checkpoint can dual wield staples pretty easy. And then you also can still dual wield SMGs pretty easy. You've got the one by the top dash above that first red spawn, and then you've still got the one in the garage area that you can grab and have dual wield SMGs post checkpoint for blue. Red can still go get that SMG. It takes a little bit extra dashes and a little bit of extra time, but it's not hard to get. It's a protected SMG to go back there to the garage to get that one, and then come back up and grab the one by the top dash. So there is a perfect trade-off right there. And then red team, they have the one in the pit in their base, and then they can get their second one in the garage. So making that one change, make that SMG in the silo a stapler, would change the whole, I think would change the meta of the map a lot. It would make staples viable in the map. And then you want to talk about pathing for where the staples have a really good path currently. In Launchpad they do for the red team. When you spawn, first spawn for red, and then second spawn for blue, like pre-checkpoint red and post-checkpoint blue are good times for staples, because you have on the red spawn, the first red spawn, if you exit out the right, you have that stapler outside the sign right there. You grab that one, you come back, grab the dash, and then you go into you take in the shield room past checkpoint. There's that other stapler right there. Oh, I'm sorry, no, the staple to the tunnel by the rocket bridge. Right. There's that second staple right there. That's the one. So yeah, Goose. It takes a little bit. It takes a few extra seconds, and it takes some extra dashes to go get that first staple, but it's protected back there. And then on your path up to the enemy as red team, on your path to blue, you have that second staple, and there you go. And then for the blue team, you spawn and you can grab that first one right up there. And then as you're making your way towards the red team's area, you can grab that second one right there. So it's all about pathing. And I think the way shotguns are, since they're so easy to use with asymmetric with a pistol, the shotgun pathing is pretty good in all the maps, because just one shotgun is going to make you such a good killer, close range and that sort of stuff. But certain weapons, so I don't think they have to change all the weapon pickups.
No.
But certain ones need to be switched and tweaked to make them more viable. You don't want to add a whole bunch of extra shock pickups, because if you have too much shocks, you could shut a team down. The way the shocks are on Canyon and LP are pretty perfect. It's if you want to have that shutdown shock, like Abrackers was using on us today in our match, throwing that shock right in front of checkpoint, it's you have to go out of your way and go back there to go grab that to have that huge advantage. And I think shock should always be like that. You shouldn't have a dual wield shock option right there next to checkpoint. You should have to run around and find them somewhere. So I think everything's pretty good. I think the weapons are well balanced all around. I don't even think the SMGs are overpowered. I just think they're too easy to pick up. And SMGs are also really easy to pick up in LP. Like people talk about Kenya, but in Launchpad, they're so easy to pick up there too.
Mhm.
So anyway, maybe a little bit of maybe heighten the damage drop off on SMGs a little bit, not a lot, and lower the damage drop off on staplers significantly, and fix the pathing on some of those. And then I think the guns are like as balanced as they need to be. That I would not want them to tweak anything at all.
And I
Except
think
maybe-
the sticking point with changing where the pickups are is that it also wouldn't just benefit League players. I mean, like I can't speak objectively here as a League player who has opinions based on a League perspective, but like I really think that changing where these things are located would then change the natural flow towards pickups in a way that benefits casual players that just have a general idea of where things are and might have like noticed consciously or subconsciously that like single wielding most guns is not as good as having two of the same, and having certain guns way out of the way compared to others encourages you to use the ones that are two of the same on a path towards shooting people. And so making more guns accessible in that way, especially the ones that aren't used that much even by casual people, I think would benefit that audience as well, that numerically much greater audience, let's be clear.
Yeah, you know what I also think might be interesting is it would be interesting if some of the, maybe all, but like if some asymmetrical loadouts synergized in some way
Yeah.
to where like maybe they had a different sort of charge up or a different sort of different properties or something if you had those two weapons together or something like that, or maybe like a a special move button that you could bind if you have like
Yeah.
stapler and SMGs or something. They could have some unique properties for that asymmetrical loadout that would actually benefit you to try and get that loadout, rather than like most people would prefer to have two SMGs rather than one SMG and a stapler. I think when people grab an SMG and a stapler, they're ready to replace that stapler as soon as they can get to the next SMG. But synergize the weapons in some way to incentivize asymmetrical loadouts, and then maybe it would happen more often.
If that's the goal. Yeah.
Yeah,
Were you trying to whisper something to Goose? Or
Maybe.
did you get that done?
he didn't check his DMs.
Oh, I
Anyway,
didn't know I
no.
was supposed to check. Hold on. Okay.
Well, yeah, get on that, dude. What are you on?
Yeah,
You're not
yeah.
checking every single ping? Come
Next
on, man.
time we'll have more.
Next time.
We'll have more opportunities.
Right.
Okay. Got you.
Anyway,
So
do you
so
get?
Goose, anything to add to that like weapon balance
Yes.
conversation?
No, I was like not listening. I was listening. I just was not.
Okay,
I
so
was-
no from on. Anything from you, Goose?
That's a
Oh,
big
wait. No, I have ideas.
Okay.
We don't want to hear your ideas. We just want you to
I want to
comment
hear
on
your
our
ideas.
ideas.
Well, that's not
Latin
gonna
part
happen.
about it. Tell me your ideas, because that's what we were asking about. Even not your opinion on what we just rambled on. about.
My ideas.
Yeah. What's your ideas?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that who here, put your hand up if you love playing on payload.
I'm putting my hand up right now.
Okay, well I'm server muting you. Okay, playing on payload generally is like kind of not super fun, because what do you do on payload but like die, right?
Playing
I'm a
physically on
cart
the
rider,
payload card,
so-
not playing the game type, you mean.
Yeah.
Being the
Like,
cart
you play-
rider, yes.
You play payload and it's like you die. So I think that an interesting change you could make, Orcalam Big O, as we call him.
O-face Orculum, yes.
He's making the sprint change, or he's suggesting the sprint change, because God, this song is just horrible. Hold on. Because he doesn't want people sitting around sprinting on payload, which is, that's understandable. Like, it's not a lot of fun for anyone. So my suggestion is, okay, well, people are going to be on payload less than, and people already don't love to play on the payload. Like, it's not a fun thing to do. To just, I'm sitting on the payload. Oh, no, I'm dead. right? Especially in Hyperdash, where it's really hard to stay alive if you're a literal sitting duck, right?
Mhm.
No offense, Goose.
Well,
A
he's just
sitting
sitting
goose.
He's no duck.
A sitting
He's no
goose, you
duck,
mean?
dude. You watch your mouth.
But my point is something I think that what you could do with it is Castle's mad at me.
Well, screw Castle. You've got me at the edge of my seat.
Yeah, I
You're
am
tickling-
waiting here for your
tickling my
suggestion.
ass hairs right now. Come on, man.
He's yelling at me.
Mute him.
I'm about to
God,
mute
you were in the
Odd.
middle of your sentence.
Come on.
Oh my God.
What was I saying? I was saying something about payload.
Put
Yeah.
the cocaine down.
The
I don't
payload
take
change
cocaine.
that you think.
Okay, so payload. So here's what I'm thinking. How can you incentivize people to play more around and on payload, but not have them sprint circle? I think that a good change that you could make is that you could. Oh my God, he keeps yamming me. Oh, that's true. That's very true. He told me that I shouldn't have my notifications on. So what you could do is that when someone is standing on the payload, you would have their dash refill faster. So they would play around the cart, but they wouldn't have to sit on it for very long.
Oh.
And you can't. And while they're on the cart, also you disable their sprint, so they can't sprint on it forever. But you play around and near the cart. You're incentivized to go onto the cart to get more dash, but it's not like,
like
just
that.
I'm sitting here. It's like I need to play close to the cart because it's a resource for me. It's
You're
a
basically
beacon.
you're basically quick energy refill while you're on the cart. Does that only apply to blue? I think that should only apply to blue.
Only apply to blue. Yeah.
Now,
And you
because
might
here's
have
one
to
thing I
change
think.
the timers a little bit, but
Here's one thing I think is right now it is so. It's so easy to checkpoint teams, especially two teams that are
for my
pretty
team to
even.
checkpoint your team specifically, yeah, that's really easy.
Yeah, for me to checkpoint Odd 1v1 payload, bitch. Let's go. but it, like two teams that are even, and even teams that are in balance. Like we see pre-checkpoint holds all the time, and I think it's more fun to play the whole map. In pubs, it's more fun to play the whole map. In watching matches, I think it's more fun when they play the whole map. And I think pre-checkpoint holds lose their value because they happen so often. You know what I mean? It's like when Dre used
I
to
agree.
cast. When Dre used to cast, when people reach checkpoint, that was the thing. He would freak out. It's like checkpoint. He would have the animation on there because a pre-check hold happens so often. And it's overly. Everyone wants to see more offense, more score. Like the slow, like boring defensive games are the ones that aren't as popular in, like, say, American sports. So let us have more checkpoints. Make it this quick energy refill thing on the cart would be huge. Like, someone's going up to disrupt and they need a little bit of extra dash to get up there to go chase those rockets. Well, that first line disruptor stands on the cart for 3 seconds to get some extra dashes and then pushes up, but the cart moves faster during that time. So I think they should. That's another thing about when we were talking about weapon balancing and getting rid of that SMG in the silo above the spawn. It's so easy to pick up SMGs in Canyon and then just stand in Mars and mow everything down. That Canyon is now like the hardest map to get checkpoint on. And it was always historically, before they put that SMG there, it was historically the easiest map to get checkpoint on. And that's actually, do you remember, Odd, or anybody?
I remember.
Was that
probably.
SMG? Was that SMG in Silo always there, or did they add that pickup there when they buffed the SMGs? Because I don't remember there being two pickups so close.
It was always there.
Okay, but they just buffed the SMGs where people actually picked them up, and they were so close. It's like, man. So yeah, once they buffed the SMGs, that just changed the whole meta of Canyon, where now it's just a pre-check map most of the time. I think what they need to do in Canyon to make that map to make checkpoint more viable is they need to cut the size of the wall where the bend is and shorten that bend, because it's so hard to get around the bend right there. It takes 2 minutes just to get around the bend. because you can have the Rocketeer has so much protection from that wall that you have to go into. You either have to slip through this narrow pathway that the other team is watching to like get behind the Rocketeer, or you have to go into Mars to get a sight line on them, and that's where the other team's watching too. It's not a wide open spot. Like LP is much more wide open to go after rockets, and even Abyss is more wide open to go after rockets. They have more space to run away and still be effective on cart than Canyon. But like, I don't know. I think they should shave that wall down a little bit, change that SMG pickup to a stapler, and then add that quick energy refill card idea. And yeah, I like that idea. So just in general, I think they need to make ways for checkpoint to be easier, so we can play more of the map. Because I
As
hate
a
when
Rocketeer, I don't think they need to change that wall on Canyon so that I can
Yeah,
get more
right.
kills. But
right.
I think we should highlight this part of the pod.
I will send it
from Odd
directly.
Statement. Basically, just label it Orculum read this, because I really
Orculum
do
read
like that
this.
idea, and I have the same agreement that like if
I
you
know he watches
change
the DashCast, so he'll watch. He'll see. He'll hear this.
If you change
Hi.
the way
Hello.
that payload works so that it's not like two who can play each side, like two relatively even sides who can play it the best, to who can push the payload the farthest. Like literally speaking, that is how it is now. Who can push the payload the farthest? But if the payload team has this objective asymmetrical advantage, even if it's a slight advantage, with just the way the payload works slightly changing so that it's more interesting and you're encouraged to ride the payload and you get a benefit for doing so as blue, I think that would help in like pubs, for checkpoints to happen more often, for more people to be on cart, for people to get how payload works if they're newer, because they get this benefit for being on it and like, oh, I'm supposed to be on it, not because it's moving, but because I am personally getting something and it happens to move it.
Yes,
But
and
also
people
in
are
a league
selfish and
perspective,
stupid.
it would be even more of an emphasis towards not just playing the whole map, but like the goal being to push the cart, not to stop the cart. Red team tries
Maybe
to
to
stop the cart, and that's their whole job. But like the overall metagame is who can move the cart the most, not who can stop it the best.
Maybe you give them more score while they're riding the cart. Maybe what about health regen while you're
I
on the
mean,
cart?
you can
also?
give it like more score. Health regen, maybe. Dash regen,
people
like
don't
as
care
long
about
as
score.
neither of these things are too big, like too big of a bonus, I think these are great ideas.
Yeah, I
for
think
giving an individual benefit.
noticeable is the key to the game. Just not
Yeah, so not
over.
score.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, well, I think we look at score, but most people might see score eventually, but they're not looking at it mid-match.
Well, in a pub,
sending
the
you
people
a direct message.
When you're talking about your direct messages and stuff, just don't.
No,
Right,
it's
no
a
one
picture.
cares.
It's green. It's green. You don't want to see green.
Oh my gosh.
So, man, now I lost my train of thought.
You've been audited.
Yeah. I've been audified.
Something about score benefits for pub people.
In pubs, I think like usually like the people who are the good killers in pubs are going to get the top scores and stuff, and the cart riders are typically not going to, because usually it's like the worst players are playing back on cart because they can't kill as much, and if they move up, they're going to get killed, and so they like usually hang back and like ride cart because they can get points easy that way and stuff. So like maybe reward those players a little bit more, because some players do look at the score afterwards. It'd be pretty cool for like a beginner player to like high score in a map, even though they're newer or something. So I think it would still get noticed in pubs.
Yeah.
What do you think about?
It would give you more maneuverability around cart, right?
The score? No, it would not give you more maneuverability around cart.
Well, I don't know what you guys are talking about. My thing.
I know you don't. So, what do you guys think about like one red player not being enough to stop the cart? Like if there's 2 blue on the cart, it takes 2 red to stop it.
I like the idea of 1 red being able to stop it, because I feel like that's already hard for red to do.
Yeah.
And just like giving them not the benefit that blue would have in this hypothetical that Odd laid out, I think is enough of a difference for blue to be able to take back the cart, and for it already being even harder for red to stack it. So having that benefit of one guy being able to fully stop it if you don't stop him,
Yeah.
I think is still great, because even in League it happens so little. Like
Yeah.
so little.
Yeah. I'm just thinking in the overall grand scheme of things, just make a checkpoint easier in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a big one, probably bigger than like health regen and quick energy refill,
So
requiring the same number of red to stop it as the same number of blue. Would be pretty big. It would also
It'd be great
lead
for
to like
Rocketeers.
blue stacking more. Yeah, I was about to say it would lead to blue stacking more when like the cart's close to the checkpoint and everyone just blitzes it. And like I think most teams, if you're smart, what you do is you put one person on cart and every other blue person alive tries to protect the one person on cart, and they all take one turn. They all jump on one at a time as the person on cart dies. But like if they know that like one person's standing on cart, but we're gonna throw 3 people on there and push the cart anyway, yeah, Rocketeers would love that. But it would also like make it a little bit easier to get checkpoint. But I'm with you there in that like that would be a big change, and it depends on how big of like meta changes they want to make. I think like quick energy refill and a health regen on there those are big changes, but not quite in the same way. But yeah, I like those ideas. There's not a whole bunch of stuff that I would want to add to the game that would really really change the game up, but I think those would be great ideas for payload.
So if you're out there, Orcolum, better listen in.
One
You
thing
saying
that
this?
I thought of while you were saying like incentivizing people getting on the payload, I think the scoreboard having payload push time for each player would be kind of huge too, and
You know
just
what?
displaying more information would be helpful.
This is something I've requested of the devs so many times, and I've asked them to enhance the scoreboard. And first off, everyone wants assists on the scoreboard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, give us assists. Separate the damage score from the objective score. I want to know how much damage I did, you know?
Yeah.
And so give us those two things. And what was the one you said? Add to the scoreboard?
Like payload
Deuce?
push time or like domination
Yes.
button hitting.
And that could just be objective
buttons
score,
hit,
even.
counters hit. Yeah,
Yeah.
just give us an enhanced scoreboard. Show us all the stats.
Even if it's
it
optional,
shouldn't be.
you know.
It shouldn't be a enhanced scoreboard as optional or something like that. But it shouldn't be something too hard to implement. I wouldn't think. It's just adding more numbers to the display on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I
I
mean, 'cause-
understand that it might crowd the scoreboard up a little bit, but who cares? Like if you think it's gonna not look pretty or crowd things up too much, then make it an option in the options, and the people that don't like it take it off. But it is crazy that after this game being out as long as it has, all we have is deaths, kills, and total score.
Yeah,
That's
which is-
ridiculous. to me.
Like
That's
I love
crazy.
after we play matches, I love going to the website and like digging through my stats and like looking if I've improved or like what I've done. Like, and I wish I could do
Sure.
that in game.
seeing how far ahead of Odd you are. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like doing that too.
Hey.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'm glad you brought that up because I want to bitch Orcolum out personally for the scoreboard still
Personally,
being.
no, Orcolum, I love you.
Orcolum
And
likes me to bitch him out personally. He
if-
bitches me out personally.
if the thing they're worried about, if it's the only thing they're worried about, is how it will look, or something being too crowded, an example of a very popular game that I think does this exact thing pretty well without it being too much is the finals. It tells you your like support score, your combat score, your objective score, your kills, your assists, your deaths, your revives, all that stuff, and it still is a lot of information without looking like too
Yeah.
much. If you're selective in it, and then even in like a VR game with your big old screen there, like you can fit a lot of info in without it looking too cluttered. I think the devs might be surprised by it.
Devs hit
Well,
me
I
up.
mean,
I
we
know
could-
Photoshop.
Yeah, I don't even think there's. That was just the only reasoning I could think about it, because I don't think it would take all that much time to code it in,
It's
because
already
they already
info
keep,
that we can
they
grab ourselves.
right, they already keep all those stats. It's just a matter of creating like 3 or 4 more columns in the scoreboard. So the only thing I could think about is like either if they just don't want to take that little bit of time, or maybe they don't think it will look nice. But you could push the scoreboard back some, make it bigger, like a movie screen or something like that. Like you could do whatever you need to so it doesn't look cluttered and whatever. Just overhaul the display
But
or something like
and
that.
I
Like Goose
feel
said,
like
he knows Photoshop. We could make it happen.
yeah, but I feel like that would just incentivize if like some like pub player sees, oh, I have like 8 seconds of push time. I need to improve that, or like just
I'm an
seeing
idiot.
where you
Yeah,
compare
I
to
should
other
jump off a
people.
cliff.
It would incentivize that, and like same with domination. I've pushed the button 24 times. Like I have it the most on my team. That's awesome.
Yeah. It would just it would give you even more stats to look at, to be proud of, that that you got the top on that. Like there's so many times that, like, assists. I want assists so bad, because you get kill after kill after kill stolen in front of you, and it's like, man, I might
Maybe
be
you
like
do.
third down. Yeah, well, I might
I'm
not
doing
have
the
like
stealing.
be third down on the kills. That just compliments me. It means I do all the damage and you get the last shot. Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
I might be like all the way down, like at third on kills, or fourth, or last, or whatever, but like have the most assists for like way high or something like that. I
Yeah.
just give us an assist. It's like, if an assist would be if you do damage to an opponent, and then they end up dying. If they get a health pickup, then whatever damage you did gets wiped. Whoever did damage on that opponent in their death, from the last time they got a health pickup, in that 100 damage that they had that they died on, whoever put damage into them should get an assist for that, and then the kill goes to the person who got the last damage that took them out. Like, I think people would really love that stat, and like all of us jumped on this idea about a more enhanced scoreboard. I think everyone wants a more enhanced scoreboard, and again, considering I don't think it'll take that much work, but of course, what do I know? But that, of all things, I think that doesn't take much work. I'm just really surprised we don't have it. Maybe it's just a matter of priority too. It's like, yeah, that wouldn't take long, but it's number 15 on our project list. But like when you're talking about like quality of life changes, there's so many quality of life things that people would love. Like, if you do this package of quality of life enhancements, that people would love as much as like a brand new payload map or something like that. I would take a bunch of quality of life changes over a new map any
Oh
fucking
yeah,
day.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see other ideas.
Eating.
So one of the things I was thinking about also that would be sort of meta changing is having some mutator pickups in a map. So like, what if there was a
Oh.
quick energy refill pickup or a double damage pickup, and like you get those for like 30 seconds or something like that. Like, let's say you have a good disruptor, and they go and they grab that double damage pickup, and it would only spawn like once every minute or something like that, or 30 seconds, like the shield probably. And you go get that double damage pickup, and then you run through the enemy's defense and just pick people off and clear the way, whatever. And players could stack the pickups. If you go get your quick energy refill pickup, and then I'm echoing through your cat.
Yeah, she's loud. She's very
Yeah.
loud.
But like, you could go get your quick energy refill pickup, and then infinite dash over to the double damage pickup, and then like do some real damage. But what do you guys think about that sort of stuff?
I mean, I think this is all good, new,
I think
very
that's
different
not very
ideas.
like-
It would obviously take time, like, to balance it and to implement it correctly so it doesn't like ruin the experience somehow. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good idea. I like it. It just like it's hard to work out the specifics of it.
Well, it's another thing, like, say, payload, like I was saying, like, I would rather it be easier to make checkpoint than I would rather it just be easier to make checkpoint And so something like a double damage pickup would be good to give to the blue side on a map. You know, gives them a little bit of extra power to go make that checkpoint. But then like getting to 100% should still be difficult. I like how it's difficult on LP and Abyss to get 100%. Then you could make it more difficult on Canyon or something like that by putting a double damage pickup, you know, at red second spawn back by the goal or something like that. So yeah, if you implement the pickup layout intelligently, I think the devs have done a good job in terms of dashes and health pickups.
Yes.
Other than be at Quarry, that's the only asymmetrical bit of a domination map that I wish I'd do something a little differently there. So anyway, but yeah, they're pretty good about those types of pickups. We talked about how like maybe there's some decent improvement that could be made for like the gun pickups, but you know, implementing things like this, I think they make the right decisions on where to put them. And then the last thing I have as far as like ideas that I have for meta changes, this isn't really a game meta change, but I would say this would be more of a quality of life update, would be queuing in a way that like, you know, you see that server that has all the like
Q4
level
server
100.
to like be in the line for that. I've said this for like a year, like 2 years. I don't know why they haven't done it.
Yes, that's what I was getting at. However, you could queue up for a server that you want to join, but you could join another server, and then you could have it set to where it just pulls you from that server and pops you into the one that you wanted to queue in.
That'd make it so much
So
better to
that-
get into a doll server.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
it
you
would.
don't have to sit there and like stare at the screen, or if you're in a queue, just, you know, sit on your ass and wait for you to get through instead of clicking join over and over again. It's like, let us queue up, but then let us join a server, and then once the spot opens, just, you know, transport us over to the other server would be amazing. And like you could, or it could just be like, you know, if it doesn't do it automatically, I guess the ideal thing would be is like maybe the server you joined, you're actually having fun on that server and you don't want to queue anymore, and you could go in your menu and turn off your queue. But what it should do is it like should come up and like, you know, give you a little notification around where the HUD is, where it doesn't like ruin your view of the game like we were talking about before, like blocking the button when you need to count down the counter or something like that. But it can be down by your HUD, like queue is ready, join, and to give you like a 5-second countdown. If you don't hit join, you lose your spot in the queue, and the next person can get in. Like if you decide you want to stay in the server you're in, then you just leave it. You let the countdown go down. What it should also do, though, it needs to show you who is in the server. You need to see the player list still, so that it doesn't take you out of this server that's pretty decent, but you want to go to the other one, but that server just died.
Yeah.
And so you lost your place in the server you're in. So there should be a little queue that shows you who's in the server, and then you could choose whether to go there or not within like 5 seconds. And then, so real quick, and we can talk about all these things. I think also in the main menu where it lists who's in the server, it should list how much time is left in the map, and it should list the scoreboard right there. Show the players in the scoreboard. You can kind of see how everyone's doing and that sort of stuff. Because a lot of times there's level 20s or 40s or whatever that are fake accounts, and you might not go into a server because there's no level 100s in there, but there's 3 level 40s that are like at 90 kills or something like that. It's like, okay, that's actually a good server. They've got players in there that are good, whatever. So I would like to see that as well. But what do you guys think about those ideas?
I just don't want to run into what I'm going to call the Larcenauts problem. I don't know if any of you have seen or
Yes.
tried Larcenauts.
I know what you're getting at. The problem where it's a shit game.
Well, and the reason it is, in my experience, having played it just a couple times a long time ago, is that there's just too much going on to understand what's happening at first. Like implementing Overwatch into VR, basically, but missing some of the key points that made Overwatch easy to pick up and play and learn what you're doing and be focused and guided towards what you should be doing for objectives. Like it missed a lot of those things and just had the complications. And like when it comes to implementing new things, I try to think a lot of, or I always do think a lot about the like overall complication that gets added to a game, into a menu, into a queuing system and stuff. And so like personally, I like the idea of being able to queue into a lobby that I just want to get right into because I know there's good people in it and I want to hang out with my friends. But sans that, the steps that I think would be needed to make that happen would overcomplicate things too much and would detract from other things like playing in the lobby that you're actually in. And you have to add too many steps to account for those detractors that get added because of this one change that you end up kind of losing the plot. And I think Larcenauts is an example that, again, in my experience at least, lost the plot on adding abilities to everybody versus like having a straightforward game that people can understand. And like
Well,
these
what do you
and
think
these power
with the
ups are.
queuing system? Yeah,
I just feel
I'm
like it would
sorry.
overcomplicate like the way that looking for lobbies and being in a lobby and like how much stuff you can fit on a in-game menu screen would look and would work, and like the ways you can implement it would be too complicated because like inevitably anything you add to the game, no matter what aspect of the video game you're talking about, maps, textures, queuing, gun balance, it's all going to mess something else up in some way, and you got to do bug fixes. But what's a worse circumstance is to mess something up like at a core level. And when you make very big changes like queuing, inevitably it's going to cause some issue either with the game itself or with how people can navigate the game. And so when it comes to like queuing for a lobby while being able to hop into another lobby or some other solution to make it so that queuing isn't just boring and sitting on your hands, I feel like you can't just add more to make that work. You need to have something different. Like maybe if you had a breacher style like gun range that you could hang out in your menu, or something besides just looking at this screen in an empty room in front of you that you can't move around in. Maybe that's the solution that could make queuing into a room of possibility. But like having mid queue all the information that you'd like to have in front of you would detract from a lot of the simplicity that makes Hyperdash such a good, addicting game in a lot of ways. The Hyperdash models being simplistic, a lot of the ways the guns work, and for all the ways that we've talked about this cast in trying to like make things more straightforward for payload objectives, the Hyperdash is a pretty simple game to pick up and to get. It has a very high skill ceiling, and there's a lot of knowledge that can be developed in how you play, but the core mechanics are pretty straightforward for a game that allows you to teleport and to pick up tons of different items. And I think that's what makes the game so good, and you don't want to lose that in trying to add these other things. And that's why I personally wouldn't like a queue system like that. Is not because the queue is bad, but because it would inevitably take away from some of these other things. And I think something different would have to be a solution.
I don't know. I get your overall point. I think, but but queuing to me seems, I don't know. It seems like a big quality of life change. Although the one detraction that I can think of with queuing in the first place that would maybe that your point sort of brings home is, let's say Laz and I are going to go join a server together, or the three of us, you, me, and Laz, we're going to go join a server, and the only servers that are like the only good servers they're all full, but there's one that's 8 out of 10, and you and Laz make it into the server, and then I'm sitting there. It's like I try to get in 2 minutes later or something like that. And I'm there, and it's like, oh, it's full. Well, I'll just wait. But then I see that the queue says there's 5 in queue already. It's like, all right, I'm not going to get to play with you guys at all. I'm like 6th in line if I want to queue up. That would suck. Whereas if you really, really, really want to get into this server because it has the people you want to play with or whatever, then you can sit there and you can stare at the join button until it's available, and then try to be the first person to click it. And so with the queue system, you could be so far back in the queue that you never get a chance to get in there if you're like planning on playing with specific people or something. But if you're willing to sit there for 20 minutes and just stare at that button, then you'll get in that server at some point. So I see
That's
your
what-
point. I would
this
still
is-
like to see some sort of queue system implemented. Like maybe the queue max is like 2, and then to join the queue you just have to sit there and try to hit queue or something like that instead of join. But
So we've kicked the problem down the road.
This is
Oh, yeah.
this is why we need like a big team battle with double the players.
maybe you just
Good
have
luck
like
with that.
maybe the queue is just one person, so like if you want to get into that server and someone beats you to the queue, cool, then you can sit there and stare at the queue button and hit that, and so that one person gets in, and then you hit queue and it's like, okay, well, I'll go hop into this server real quick while it tries to pull me over. So maybe just don't allow too many people in the queue, and that should fix that. But I get your overall point, Gollum, but I wouldn't want that point to get in the way of them trying to make the quality of life changes that they think are necessary. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What is a status?
Hmm?
Sorry, I got distracted by the way that Discord works. You can add a status to a voice channel.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, you
I didn't know
can.
that either.
What is that? Anyways,
Make the status Cocaine Cowboys, please. Because Jesus, this conversation.
done. Let us all fall asleep.
So the VC we're in is called the DASHCAST VC in the Hyperdash server. And unless you have the DashCats role, you can't see it. So it's the DashCast server, but our role is DashCats because
Is
we're
it
cool
really?
cats. Yeah, it is.
Meow.
Oh my God, it
okay,
is.
so yeah. So we've been going on a while for this. I think this has been a great conversation. We can wrap it up soon, but real quick before we do, were there any other Goose? Did you have anything? Any other like meta change? Oh, I had one more that I'll do, but does anybody else have anything as far as meta changes? No.
Not-
Crickets,
Okay.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it from me.
So then the last thing I wanted to talk about, and Nod touched on this a little bit earlier too, is adding momentum to sprint. If Orc's thing about cart that he doesn't like is that you can sprint circle on the cart and that sort of stuff, if you really want to change the game back to dash centric rather than sprint centric play, then you need to add momentum to sprint. So if you're changing directions, no matter which direction, not just the tiny little circling, but any directional change on sprint, you have a little bit of hesitation, not a lot, just a little hesitation where you have to build back up to a top speed. And it could take like a quarter of a second to get back up to top speed, or a half second or something like that, to where it's not just defying the laws of physics to be able to go right, left at 100% speed. And if you penalize that sort of movement, then just like people adjusted to moving from dash centric mechanics to sprint centric mechanics, people will adjust back to dash centric mechanics, and it will be Hyperdash again. Because right now I feel like it is meta. The meta way to like fight in a gunfight is still to dash on opponents, but sprinting is so easy, and it's the lazy way to play that's what wins out. But if you added sometimes, yeah, I mean, it also depends on aim. If you've got that dead on aim, if you're dashing on a sprinter, then you should be winning that fight. But if you dash on someone, because every time you dash on someone, you get peeker's advantage. So if in that little peeker's advantage you land your shots, then you should win. If you miss your shots, then yeah, they'll have time to react and spin around and kill you anyway still. But I think that change would be a gigantic meta change that would bring the game back to like dash focused gunfighting, as opposed to what it is now, which is not that. What do you think about that, Odd? Because you've been around. You were the only other one here that got to play before they had sprint.
That is a tough, because Here's what we're thinking about. We're thinking about we want this like have you ever played badminton, Lat?
Yep. In junior high.
Okay, so not like professional badminton.
You
Well, yeah,
have played
junior high.
professional badminton? That's the way that you're
Okay,
saying
okay.
this.
So do you know about like the different kinds of rackets? Like specifically,
my
like
junior high school had one type of racket, bro.
Okay,
There's the
so
racket.
there's stiff rackets and there's like kind of flexi, I guess, flexi rackets. That's what we're gonna call them. And
Flaccid
basically the way,
rackets. Yeah.
okay, shut up. Basically, the way that it works is that if you're a newer player, generally you want to use the more flexible racket because it's like more forgiving and it's more fun if you're like, you know, a normal human that's not like a superhuman. That's not a superhero, badminton superhero, right?
Sure.
When you get better, you transition over to this more stiff racket because you can get more power and more accuracy, but it's much less forgiving, right? So what we're saying in removing sprint is that we're saying, okay,
Not removing
let's
sprint.
changing it
In
in that way.
de-emphasizing sprint.
De-emphasizing sprint is that we're we're taking away the flexible badminton racket from the poor child who just wants to play badminton. That's the way I see it.
But by not making that change, we're forcing everyone to play with the flexible badminton thing. You know,
That's true. That's true. It's a balance, and this is why Orkalam gets paid for it, and I don't.
the thing is, like, before there was any sprint at all, the people who played the game learned how to dash on each other. It was a gunfight was like a dashing chess match. People adapted to that, and people loved it. People played the game, and they absolutely loved the game, and all that stuff. And then sprint gets introduced at the same time the game hits side quest, which is the first big
Oh my
bump the
gosh.
game got.
I forgot about
So it's
that.
like,
yeah.
as the game got its first big bump, sprinting was already a thing. So we didn't even get to see like how much, like, all the OGs, the originals, well, I guess not all of them. Of course, it was some of the OGs, those early players that requested sprint in the first place. But I just remember so many people being against it and them doing it anyway. But it came out at the same time the game got a huge bump. So it was like all the new people that came in, which was more than how many people there were before all those. Like, the amount of new people that came in was probably more than the amount of people who were already playing the game, and all they knew was sprint. So it's like, well, hell yeah, of course we like it like this. So the people who wanted to be more dash centric, they're of course going to get shouted down and have no chance now. So to me, the name of the game sort of lost its value as soon as they added sprint on. And I use sprint all the time, but then I use it in gunfights, and I need to focus on not doing that as much.
You get sad every time you use it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, I think sprint is really good for when you're navigating tight corners and stuff in a building or something like that, to be able to get through that quickly instead of having to, like, slowly walk through it or else use your dashes, because that's how it used to be without sprint. It's like, say, the cubby in Canyon on the blue side to get to Chaos, that little square room with the one pillar in the middle, and to get through that before, you'd have to, like, dash to the side, like enter the door and dash to the side, and then dash through the other door and use up 2 dashes, or else you had to slow walk through there. Huh?
Sorry.
Yes, you had to use brainwave movements to. But anyway, with sprint, you can just zoom right through that spot, which is great. That's awesome for what sprint gets to be used for. But in a gunfight, it's just like, it's sprint left, right, and that's all it is. It used to be sprint circles, and a lot of the sprint circlers don't play anymore, or whatever. So it's just, I don't know. I would be interested to see that implemented. I think the change that they did make, first off, no one's adding that mutator to when they play anything. So I don't know how the devs are getting their data for whether people like that change or not. And then all it changes, people have said other things. They've said, like, oh, it messes me up when I change directions. Like, no, it does not. It's only if you move further than a half circle in a small enough half circle and continue on past that circle to a full circle motion that it actually slows you down. That's it. And that's not really something that gets used a whole ton anymore. Maybe just on cart, but not in gunfights or anything anymore. So anyway, they could always revert back if they make a change, or give us like a momentum mutator and let us try out some real sprinting changes and see what people think about that. But I don't know. That's the last thing I had on my list to discuss for meta changes. But I don't know, Gollum, Goose, y'all have any thoughts on that or anything else to add?
I added a thingy in suggestions. But
Oh, in the DashCast suggestions.
yeah, actually I can just say it.
Yeah,
in
we're
the
on
league.
it.
So basically for that change, what I'm thinking is that instead of having it constantly active, you can have implement it, but only about a half second after a dash. So you know how you go around and you dash around and you touch your sprint intermediately, so you can get really smooth, really like really efficient movement. You guys know how to do that. You're dashing and you do like dash sprint, dash sprint, sprint
Yeah.
sprint dash, like that.
Yeah.
So if you activated it only after about 0.5 seconds of no dashing, you could retain the efficiency and movement, but you could cut the amount of sprint dancing in half.
Yeah.
That's my
Maybe it's
thought.
even just that like when you just start sprint in your first direction, you can just start out at 100%. But it's when you're already sprinting and you change direction, that's when it slows you down. So then that wouldn't affect the the dash sprint sort of movements where you dash and sprint in a direction and then dash and that sort of stuff. But it would de-emphasize sprinting in a gun battle. Which
The reason
when they designed the game, I don't think that's what they had in mind for how the gunfights were going to work. So I don't know.
Yeah. The reason I say to wait a bit after a dash is because there are many, many moments in which what I will do is I will like I tested this in the deathmatch thing, basically going around doing some routes, and what I found is that I use sprint to make a lot of sharp turns just when I'm moving, not even when I'm in a map by myself. I use it to just like kind of rotate myself quickly, like go around corners that I can't dash past, stuff like that. So I think giving just a little bit of leeway, a little bit of space in there.
Yeah,
Could be.
I also talked about a little bit of leeway when I was discussing it before when we did the update episode, when we were talking about the update that they dropped, and it was like you have to change direction at a certain angle or something, like at 90 degrees or something like that for it to kick in. Because again, if you're going through the cubby, you should be able to go through the cubby and around that column without your dash slowing you down or whatever. So you should be able to change direction within a certain angle and you don't slow down at all. But when you go like change at a 90-degree angle or at 180 degrees or something like that, that should kick in a little momentum that that slows you down until you have to get back up to top speed. You know what I mean? Anyway, that would just be a gigantic change that I doubt will ever come because I don't know. I'm surprised actually at all that in the podcast they talked about making meta changes to the game at this point. It's been out for
strange.
so long and it's worked as it has for so long that for them to be considering meta changes at this point is kind of strange because some games could introduce a meta change and like people then hate the game and just give it up. So I don't know. I think they would need to be able to be flexible so that they do introduce some meta change and they see like their 300,000 players a month drop off by like 15% or something. They're like, okay, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Let's not do that
panic
anymore.
button.
Roll back.
Undo it.
Yeah. So, did you guys have anything else to add to this podcast episode? Any other meta changes or anything else we discussed that y'all had a point about, or are we happy where we left it right there?
Quick note. I'd like to say that for Triangle Factory, they said that they would be willing to sponsor events from legitimate sources that bring in players, like tournaments and stuff. So
Mm.
honestly, come on, more people go for that, right? Like I could organize something for Acer, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah, I think
so
more
be on the lookout
people
for
should
that.
be making events and stuff for this game because I think I don't know.
Especially tournaments and stuff. Like tournament, and I want Dash League to do more with tournaments in the off season. It's hard to do tournaments during the season, of course, because most people are available to play on weekends. And then to be having a tournament running at the same time as when everyone's trying to get their matches in, usually it's tough for
Right.
scheduling for either the matches or the tournament. So off season Dash League time is when Dash League would like to get some tournaments and stuff going. But I've also like if other people have tournaments they want to do that seem like good tournaments and they're run by people that like, you know, we would like to see tournaments run by and whatever, then it's like, yeah, we would be happy to even help. Like,
Okay, bro.
you know, it would be cool for like people with you know, to help design some tournaments and do stuff outside of Dash League.
Yeah.
Especially during the off season.
Yes.
Anything that's running, I think a lot of people are kind of doomed if they try to run a tournament during the season because a lot of people, most players are going to choose their matches over the
Well,
tournament stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I guess it just kind of depends on how you schedule the thing and how much of a time commitment it's going to take from players if you do something during the season. But the off season's wide open; people can do stuff, and it would be interesting to see more stuff done during the off season.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess that dude, that went on longer than I was expecting it to, but I really enjoyed that conversation.
No, I
Yeah.
think it was great. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was cool. We've got one more conversation coming up after this. This will
What?
probably make this our longest Dashcast, which I know Mad Clever is gonna like that.
Yeah, Mad Clever's
So-
gonna love that, man.
We recorded this segment a few weeks ago, and then something else
did?
came up that we wanted to talk about instead. Yeah, you weren't there. This was a segment that we had banked, so we were like, let's just keep this segment in the in our pocket, and if something happens that we can't get scheduled, we'll throw that segment up and have a conversation about. But this was the odd. We tried to get you for this odd, but you weren't available. But this was a conversation that Gollum had with a conversation between me, Gollum, and Goose about what new game types we'd like to see, what new guns we'd like to see, and what new mutators we'd like to see. I think the segment's about 30 minutes long or something like that. And I thought it was appropriate to go ahead and toss it in with this podcast episode because the devs are saying, hey, give us ideas for stuff to do and whatever. And,
Yes.
you know, kind of one of the things that kind of dates the segment is that we were talking about, yeah, you know, the devs aren't going to put this much work into it to actually make a new game type at
Yeah.
all. So this is all wishful thinking. And to be honest, I doubt anything we talk about in the next segment gets implemented, but it's a fun conversation to have. And I thought it
Yeah.
would go along well with this conversation we just had. So with that, we'll kick it off to our discussion about game types, mutators, and guns. All right, so we're going to do our fun segment where we discuss the game types, mutators, and guns we'd like to see introduced to the game. And for me, I have a couple of game types. I'll go over a gun that I think would be interesting and a mutator or two. And I think Gollum and Goose also. I imagine you guys also have one of each.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so either of you guys want to kick it off first with your ideas?
Sure. I'll race in here
Let's
with the
actually.
first
Why don't
one.
we do?
Oh,
Why don't we do this real quick? Let's do like all of our game type ideas, and then we'll move on to another one. So give us your game type, Gollum.
sure. My game type is a target practice race type of game type.
Ah.
It would essentially set the players in a track of some sort, and you have to practice speed running through the track, dashing and hitting targets the whole time. And I mean, there's not a whole lot to it. more than that as far as like the descriptor for the concept, because I feel like there's a lot you can do with it at that point.
So you're
Yeah,
thinking?
that would be. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Goose.
Oh, I was just are you thinking that like each target would give you points, or that you just need to hit all the targets?
I mean, it's up in the air for discussion at this point. There's
Okay.
two ways you could do it. Personally, my first thought was that you're trying to hit everything, and you are kind of like racing through this track, and as you move to each point, you have to hit the target, almost like laps in a race, but
Okay.
a lot more laps in the one race, and try and get through it as quickly as possible.
Would it be like a 5v5 thing where the whole team is working on this stuff, or is it like more of an individual? You got 10 people trying to work on this stuff all at the same time. What a deal.
I mean, I'm thinking it's a free for all. But
Yeah.
now that kind of brings up the one other similar option there, which is a free for all target practice, where you don't get points for killing people. You only get points for hitting a target, but the best way to prevent somebody else from hitting a target is by killing them.
Now that would be cool.
That would be cool. It reminds me a little bit of I guess a lot of games have had, like, what do you call it, trial runs,
Yeah.
and so it's like these impossible obstacle courses that you, like a roguelike, you just have to go in and do over and over and over. It's like, okay, I finally figured out how to do this jump. Now I can do that one, and now the next jump, how do I do that one? And then when you fall, you have to restart at the beginning and do all those jumps you learned how to do, and it just takes forever. And you get so close to the end, and you fall. You have to start all over. And like, so I used to do these trial runs in Unreal Tournament 2004, and UT 2004 will come up again when we get to my stuff. And it was like they were long. They were so long, and it would take you such a long amount of time to like get from one spot to another spot. Take you like half an hour to get that one jump, and then it's like, okay, well now I have another one to do, and it's like a mile worth of like all these things. So it's like they really tested your patience and stuff, but it was fun because it was a challenge. And that, I think that would be, I've thought about it before. That would be so cool. Like if if we had a map maker tool that we could build maps and like upload them to the game easily, like you could in Unreal, then I'm sure people would be making trial runs and stuff for
absolutely.
Hyperdash, and I think that'd be super fun. Yeah.
Just the reward of spending so much time trying to master something like that. Also,
Yeah.
that's something that I'd really like to see in this game.
And I think that would go
Yeah,
a
for
long
sure.
way to improve people's aim too.
Yeah, like I mean, it's just straight up a trainer. So good thing.
Yeah. All right, Goose, what do you have for your game type?
All right, so I've got my visual aid here, and I think we talked about this briefly at one point, but mine is the tug of war payload.
Oh,
Yeah.
So the payload would start under the bridge in that middle, and each team would spawn in their respective area and rush towards it, trying to move it. And I'm assuming that this game type would have like a payload that has either 2 shields on both sides or no shields on either side, so it could move back and forth. And all of those light gray areas are upper areas that you can get into, or obviously you can go down below. But it's just a rough sketch of this payload game type.
So the payload starts under the bridge there,
yeah,
you said?
in that center,
Yeah.
where that bridge goes over, it starts there, and so each team tries to rush towards it.
now that
I
has
think-
got to be a map maker's dream or hell, depending on who you ask.
Yeah. I think something like that, like in any type of game, you want to have the possibility of a comeback,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Otherwise, people just start to give up. And like in our league, on the payload maps, it's like you can know that you've lost the map and still have 8 minutes to go in the map. But the thing that keeps people trying hard is like the MMR. So having that MMR back there, it's like,
Mhm.
all right, I don't want to lose more MMR that I'm already going to lose. So having that mitigating factor,
Right.
that's still sort of like a comeback thing. Like if you put on a strong hold, then you're not going to lose as much MMR or whatever.
Right.
So I've always thought with this tug of war payload thing, there has to be something that, like, as you get the payload closer and closer to your base or shoving it through the enemy's base, whichever way it's you're supposed to take it, there has to be something that allows for a comeback. So like I'd say is like as the payload approaches the end goal, your team's pushing it to the end goal, it goes slower and slower and slower.
Yeah,
But as
absolutely.
the enemy, when the closer it is to their end goal, it goes faster and starts to slow down the further it is. So there is a comeback chance, because if it always moved the same speed no matter what, then it's like by the time it gets like close to your end goal, there's no way the other team's going to be able to counter that. So I always thought
Right.
this would be a fun game type if that sort of comeback chance was implemented.
Right, and I would assume that you would want to triple stack as the cart slows down. You would always want to have more people
Right.
on the cart, and that would be a trade off, obviously. So it's like,
Yeah.
And you know, this is a problem that I think at least has a solution, but it's all in the map design. If you design a map that has pathways to get from your spawn to a decently far, maybe not the furthest corner at all, but a decently far point in the map that's close to wherever the track is at any given point in time, that's good map design that allows for a
Mhm.
comeback at just about any point, even if it
Mhm.
gets closer and closer to the other spawn, and it changes what routes people have to watch. And so that's kind of why I think it would be a map maker's dream or hell.
yeah,
trying to
absolutely.
balance
Yeah.
that out.
All
Yeah.
right, Lat, you ready?
All right, I got two different game types.
Okay.
We could go over the one with one of them is much easier to explain, but one of them is going to be much more confusing, and I don't think my visual aid is going to help very much. But throw it up there.
Okay, you're gonna have to
Okay,
be
here
an
we go.
audio aid for us.
All right,
Yeah,
here we go.
and I'm a little bit behind on the stream. I don't know why. Like it took me about a minute for your visual aid to pop up, so mine'll pop up in a minute or so, and I'll be able to see it
Okay.
and use it. But I'll set it up. Is so anyone who played Unreal Tournament 2004 knows the game type called Onslaught, and I think that was like the main game type of the game. But that game had like 10 different game types.
Mhm.
But Onslaught was awesome because what it is there are these, you have your base that you spawn at to start out, and then there are these nodes spread out throughout the map symmetrically, for the most part, and you would go up to a node and you would have to stand on it to activate the node, and then one of the guns in the game was called the link gun, and you would charge up a node by shooting that node with your link gun. And if you just stepped on it, it would build up on its own, but it would take a long time. But you'd have to shoot it with the link gun to get it to charge faster. And the more people that were linked up with the link gun shooting the thing, it would charge faster and faster. So it was like a team effort to get the thing to charge up.
Oh, okay.
And but the interesting thing is, so like let's say 1 and 7 here, that's the base. That's where you start out, and that's
Mhm.
where you spawn originally in the game. But then the first node on your path is this node 6 and the node 2. And that's the quickest one for you to get to from your base. And so you say you build up those nodes and you activate those, then you can spawn there. And so as you build nodes on your path to the other enemy's base, you get to spawn in that location. So it gives you advantage of being able to spawn a little bit closer to the objective and all that sort of stuff. So the way I would see it is like in Hyperdash, you would have like maybe it could be a button or something, but you go up and hit a button, and it activates for whatever team first hits the button. And then say like there's this, I don't know, this object, an orb or some sort of thing floating above the button that has like about 1,000 hit points. And the way you take control of it is like you have to shoot down the enemy's node
Mhm.
and then hit that button to activate it as your node. And so you just shoot at it with your regular pistols or bring some shocks to give some real damage to it, or some rockets to really damage the thing faster. And then, like, let's say if you get wiped out and you didn't get to destroy the node, it would recharge on its own until it comes back to full power before you come back and try to attack it again. But the object of the game is you have to connect all the nodes and make a connecting path to the enemy's base node and destroy that node, and then you win. So you can sort of see here the solid lines, like the solid blue lines. Those are nodes where you're connected, and you could spawn at any one of those, and you could even select which one you want to spawn at. That was something you could do in the PC in Unreal Tournament. You open up your menu and select which node you want to spawn at. So that could just be something when you're dead, you pull your menu and select which one of these nodes you own to spawn at that location. And you see where the dotted lines are. So like from 5 to 3, that's dotted. So that means like you have access to attack 3, or they have access to attack 5. And once one team turns it to the other color, then it's a solid line, and you can use that new one to spawn there. Those little black lines are rails. This is just a made up sort of like just this kind of reflects a map called Torland in Unreal Tournament 2004.
Torland.
But anyway, Torland, yeah. And so I always thought it was awesome because the domination is you hit a button and you have to string those buttons together, but it's a linear path. And what was always fun about Onslaught was you had multiple paths. So here you could go 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, and that's like the most direct path. But while some people might be focusing on that direct path, you can also have people going to this side path, which is 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. So it's a little bit longer, but it's probably less contested because it's the longer route. So it provides this awesome game dynamic where you have to pay attention to all these different areas, all these different pathways to get to your base, and how do you split your team up in an effective way to counter all that while you're also being aggressive going into their base. Then I have no idea if that really explained what I'm trying to get through, because
No, I mean that's how a lot of
pretty
laser tag
complex
places
game
work,
side,
right?
A lot of
with the base shooting and capturing, at least at laser tag places I've been to in real life, back in the day.
Oh, I've never played laser tag. I have no idea.
Well, I mean, based on this, you'd probably like it. A decent amount of places use kind of a somewhat similar idea to this, as far as like you not connecting nodes or anything, not any of that stuff that can only really work well in a video game, but like the shooting of bases in order to help your team achieve victory and stuff like that. That there's kind of some cross pollination there.
Yeah, and I like the aspect of it, how when you control that node, you get to spawn there, because it gives whoever has, like right here, blue would have the advantage because they could spawn right there in the middle at 4 and go to 2. So like the way these are connected, if you go and you knock out 2, then this node 3 would be disconnected and they wouldn't be able to
Spawn there
they wouldn't
anymore.
be able to
Yeah.
then they could still spawn there until you destroy that node, because they do own the node, but you wouldn't be able to connect to 5 anymore because 3 is not connected to 2.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can't really, so you have to be connecting, and you can get cut off depending on the route you take. So blue here has the advantage, but let's say if the red team is able to take over number 4, then they have the advantage. And so anyway, I always loved that game type in Unreal Tournament 2004. I remember suggesting this game type to the devs way back in the early alphas, and was hoping they'd do something like that, but meh. And by the way, I don't think anyone should get their hopes up that any of these game types will happen. I think the devs are beyond that. They're not putting that much time into the game anymore. So unfortunately, but anyway, I've always wanted to see this in there. And then the other game type I had, I don't know what I would call it. Titan is the name I picked for it, but I don't know what the best name of it for it would be.
What, unrelated? No affiliation
mean?
to Titan.
Oh, Titan the player? No.
Yeah.
Yes. It's all about getting Titan into a map, and everybody else who can join the map, you're just beating the shit out of him. Just everyone's shooting him and just, spawn locking him. Screw that guy. No, love you, Titan. No, this would be, because the reason I would call it Titan is because originally I figured whoever's turn it was to be the Titan would be like this larger player model, like 3 times as big as the other, like he's a giant. And it's like this giant monster that you're having to shoot. But I don't know if that would just look too hacky or whatever. But so I think kind of you could just, everyone could be the same, like player size, but whoever the Titan is would be like a different color. So like, let's just say like you have a server full of 10 people, one person's a Titan, and they could be, I don't know, blue, and all the other people could be red or just whatever. So he's a different color, so everyone knows we're attacking that person. And the goal is that whoever is the Titan gets to be Titan for 2 minutes. So you're either Titan for 2 minutes or until the other 9 players kill you. And you would have like say it would have to be an amount of health that could be taken out in 2 minutes, but you could still survive for 2 minutes with that amount of health. So I would think something like 50,000 health for the Titan, because it would be like an open arena type map, not some map where you can go hide in corners. Like it would just be just a fierce battle with this tank Titan right there with like way too much health, and everyone else has regular health. So he's picking off people like normal, and the goal is like whoever gets the most kills as Titan at the end of the map wins, and everyone would get a turn at Titan, because like 2 minutes with 10 people would be a 20-minute map. Anybody who joins late, like I think it would just go 10 Titan rounds. So like if you have some people who join late and they don't get a turn at Titan because they've already done 10 Titan rounds, 20 minutes worth, then too bad, next time, whatever.
Yeah.
But I just thought it would be awesome to be able to like go around and like, just slaughter people, not worrying about your health so much, and just trying to rack up kills while everyone else is trying to take you out, and see if you could, the other 9 people would feel a sense of accomplishment if that person doesn't get to their 2 minutes. But then the real race is like who gets the most kills as the Titan. And I always thought that would be super fun to play, and probably not all that difficult of a game type to code in. Like all you're doing is like you'd have to set a map where like the Titan has one place he spawns in, and then the other 9 people can spawn all around him in the arena, and then it's just a matter of like, giving this person this much health and everyone else just a regular amount of health. I feel like it wouldn't be all that difficult to code as a game type, but still, I don't think the devs put that much effort into it. So, so I don't think we'll ever see it, but man, it would be fun.
Asymmetric gameplay, when it's done right, which is the important part, when it's implemented right, is some of the most interesting and enjoyable gameplay experiences I've ever had. To be honest, stuff like that, it's just such a fun concept to go with, and there's not enough examples of it because it's hard to do right in any way that you do asymmetric gameplay. But when it's done right, that power balance of figuring things out, how to balance that power while still keeping things very clearly asymmetric and different for everybody is a fun experience and a really interesting insight into game design too.
Yeah, it was like Left 4 Dead 2. Like that's completely asymmetric.
Oh yeah.
When the other team spawns a tank and they just come in and destroy, it's like that's not fair, but it's fun because you'll get a chance at that also, or you can take the tank out or whatever. So even though like this game type is asymmetric, it's still symmetrical in that everyone has a turn at their turn at being the tank. So you could have, and then it's a couple of numbers running that you're like keeping track of to keep it interesting. It's like it would be, of course, adding up your damage points that you deal to the Titan. So it's like, okay, who's going to come out on top for damage points, on the Titan? That's one way to win. Like I got the most damage points on Titan, I win. And then as Titan, who gets the most kills of the peasants around them with only 100 health? So it's like it's 2 different ways to sort of win the game. Everyone gets a turn at the round, so it's asymmetrical yet symmetrical at the same time. And yeah, I would love to get in on that. That would be super fun. Okay, so now let's get into our mutator ideas. Gollum went first last time. Goose, why don't you pop us off with your mutator idea?
All right. So I actually have 2 mutator ideas. One is an infection game type mutator. So I guess this could kind of be a game type or a mutator. It could go either way. But basically, classic roles of infection. You have one player starts off as the quote unquote infected, and I would assume he would either have like SMGs or something a little OP, and then the rest of the players would have a shield and one other weapon. And what I'm imagining is that when you can trade out the shield, but you always have to have one shield. So if you want a weapon in your left hand, you would obviously have to take that, and it would switch automatically. So all the other players would have a shield, and you'd just be hunting all the other players if you're the infected player.
And like the idea is you put the mutator on, and then that just takes over for the map that you're playing on.
Yep. And I would assume it would be for any map. It would. I don't know. Maybe that part isn't as great. Maybe if we had like the smaller maps, like the deathmatch maps, I would assume. But yeah, that's number one. Then my
so hold on before you get to your next one. So Gollum, I don't know if you were ever around early enough for this, but one of the early mini games we used to play. So early on when I first started the league, just to sort of keep keep events going and keep the community active and whatever, we would do pub nights. And so it's like you just sort of post up, hey, I'm going to host a pub night at this time, thumbs up, react, and the first 10 to react to get in, sort of deal like that. And sometimes we would do like mini game pub nights. So we'd go into maps and play hide and seek and stuff like this. And so Fathead invented our infected / zombie mini game. And what it was we would go into Metropolis, and the zombie would have 2 shocks, and you would have to keep your dual shocks activated so that you could see the shock balls from a distance and know that's the zombie. And that's how we would tell who the zombie was. And in order for the zombie you couldn't shoot the zombie. All you could do was run away. And in order for the zombie to turn someone else into a zombie, he would have to go and suicide on that person and kill them both. So if he killed that person but he didn't kill himself, then that person's not a zombie. But if he kills you both, then that person's a zombie. They have to go get dual shocks, and then now there's 2 zombies, and it would just go all the way until like you had the last person. And sometimes you'd have 9 people going. It was hard to keep track of who was zombies because there's no scoreboard keeping track. And it's like, is that everybody? Is there still someone? And someone's like, no, you never got me. Like, where the fuck are you? It's like they had a really good hiding spot or whatever. But it was super fun. So we kind of had something like that. An actual mutator for it would be sweet, or a game type would be sweet. But yeah, I thought I'd mention that because we kind of had a thing like that we would do, and it was so much fun.
Oh yeah. So my second one is a mutator that would turn on dynamic parts of the map. So in the case of Volcano, the B button at certain points would be flooded with lava, and you couldn't get to it. And it would be somewhat random. And obviously that would change the entire game flow. So it would have to be a mutator. But then the other part of it is like the other maps that obviously don't have like that type of environmental thing could have certain doors that open and close at random. So that would also change the game flow.
Well, like Waterway, you could have like a 60-foot tidal wave come through and just wipe everyone out at B.
Yeah, exactly.
On Volcano, it could erupt, and then like if you're at B, it just burns you to a crisp. But it also has like flaming debris coming down on people over at A and C. And if you get hit by that, you're dead. Also, it's like I love that. That's hilarious.
And I loved on Abyss. This is where I got the idea. Basically, on Abyss, after you get through checkpoint, that back corridor opens. So I was like, what if that just happened randomly? On other maps as well, like there could just be a shield door that comes up and you can't go through it, and then it would drop at certain points. So I think that would be interesting. It would add a lot more variety into the games.
Yeah, that'd be funny. The mutator would be called Living Maps. They'd be alive. So what do you have, Gollum?
So this one, personally, I know I would love it, but just like some of the maps that I know I love, and I know a lot of people hate, I could see how a lot of people wouldn't enjoy this. It's a hot potato. And the two ways I think you could go about it. One is at all times there's one person on the map with a 20-second, maybe 30-second countdown timer. And if the timer reaches 0, they die, and the timer passes off to one other person on their team. However, you can pass off the timer by hitting somebody on the other team, by shooting them. Even just hitting them one time passes the timer to them, and the countdown starts going down. Anytime you're killed, it passes to somebody else on your team. And I just think that kind of forced movement all of a sudden would be a really interesting added aspect to the game, where you have this many seconds before you have to do something, or else
So it's like,
you die.
yeah, so it's like, so I'm imagining this would be like a no respawn thing, and then like a last man standing for team wins. So it's like one team, whoever has the hot potato, like they're out seeking out enemies to shoot while all those enemies are running away, trying not to get shot, so that whoever's the hot potato currently, they blow up, and then and then they're down a person, and then it keeps doing that, and you're trying to trade off so that the other team blows up until you're down to just like one team alive. Do I have that right?
Well, sure, you could do that, but I mean, at that point, it kind of just becomes its own like gameplay type at that, which ain't a bad thing. But honestly, I'm thinking of just
What were you
putting
thinking?
this thing on any map. Like
So you're on
payload on domination, it would.
So you're
you're
just
sitting on
playing
the
the
cart,
map,
and
but
all of a
that's like
sudden,
an extra factor.
all of a sudden, your teammate dies, and you start getting a 30-second timer in front of your face with big red numbers, and you have to do something. All of a sudden, that seems like the
That's
type
funny.
of stress that I would live for.
That's funny. I did
Or
turn it
die
all
for.
into a complete game type, and you're just thinking like, no, just throw it into a map, a regular play map, and some people are gonna randomly explode.
I think it'd be even better if instead of just dying, you literally exploded, like you got hit by
There
two
you
rockets,
go, like
you
being hit by
ragdolled.
double rockets.
Yeah,
that would be great.
And then anyone you hit with your body parts gets damaged from the shrapnel. Yeah. All right, so my mutators are probably kind of boring, but one of them would be a no time limit mutator. Like I just recently joined Sky, and I'm going around trying to film some walkthroughs of like, strategic stuff and whatever. And I keep having to restart the map, and it's so annoying. I just want like a no time limit thing for that purpose. And like anytime a team wants to go into a map and practice something, whatever, just let us turn the time limit off. That was something I asked for in the practice mode mutator. When I asked for the practice mode mutator, I was like, yeah, also let us have an option to just turn off the timer. And I don't know why we didn't get that, but it would have been super useful.
I mean, like, at least to me, it makes sense why they wouldn't do that. But like, we're not here to be understanding of like server space and stuff. We're here to demand what's going to be useful and fun. And like, you're damn right. There's so many times I've done map walkthroughs and stuff, and the time limit reaches, and we have to restart the map like 2-3 times. And man, that would be so useful.
I don't even think it would be an issue for server time. It's not like, okay, if we have no time limit, now I'm going to sit in the server for 8 hours. It's like, no, I'm gonna play in the server as long as I was going to in the first place.
Yeah.
But you also hear. So I got in the game in Alpha 3, and I think Alpha 3 is when they introduced the timer, because I remember stories of people playing Quarry back before Quarry had the tunnel underground, and there were these giant walls on either side of the home button. And just the way Quarry was originally was so hard to cap on. And there was no time limit. So people would tell stories about how the game would go on for hours. Their headset would like die, and they'd recharge it and get back, and that game is still going on. And like, getting hundreds of kills and all that sort of stuff. So I thought it would also be interesting to like be able to have a nostalgic no time limit Quarry or whatever, just play the map for an hour or something like that. And most people would like say, no, that sounds boring or whatever. But I like a game where like you have to like overcome the odds and persevere, and it takes a long time. Like I'm in it for the long game, so I would find that to be kind of fun here and there. But the other mutator I had, and I've asked the devs for this also, and I'm not sure why we haven't got this yet, because to me, it just seems like a no-brainer. But like, I would like to be able to. It's not like a mutator itself, but it's how we get to apply mutators. I would like to be able to select a specific team for a mutator to be applied to. So, like, let's say you're the admin of a server and you have all the mutators listed right there. Well, you also have a column of checkboxes that says blue team and a column of checkboxes that says red team.
Oh.
And if you want the mutator to apply for both teams, then you just don't check the blue or red team box. But let's say you want to have a match of like Rockets versus Shocks. Then you select Rockets and then select blue team for them, and then you select Shocks and select red team for them. Or you could have like one team has like double damage and the other team has a heal on kill, or like just these, like you were saying, asymmetrical play, and just the different kinds of ways that you could set up team versus team sort of battles where teams have have asymmetrical loadouts or perks and stuff like that. I think that would be fun for pub nights and stuff like that. Tournaments, we could have some really cool tournaments like that also. So that would be the number one mutator I would like to see in the game, is just to be able to apply them to one team at a time.
For sure.
All right, so let's get into the last one. A gun that we would like to see introduced in the game, and I'll start this one off. And to be perfectly honest, I had the idea for this segment and thought like, well, let's come up with like a game type and a mutator and a gun and whatever. So the gun that I came up with, I would not like to see this in the game. but if it was in the game, I guess I could get, because I think the guns are pretty balanced as they are, except the stapler sucks.
They've
So
got a
hey,
good
devs,
variety.
yeah, everything's pretty well balanced except that stapler. So devs, fix it. But so the gun idea I had was like, it's a continuous laser, so it's just like a straight beam, and when you hit an enemy with it, it doesn't do a lot of damage. It'll do some damage, but a small amount of damage. But it prevents you from like sprinting or dashing, and like slows your movement down. Like all you can do is walk. So it makes you a sitting duck, and so any other enemies around you, they can just pick you off super easy. Now you could of course still shoot. Maybe it would even lower like your fire rate down to like 5 CPS instead of 10. So it just kind of, as long as they keep that beam on you, then you're sort of a sitting duck. But if they miss you for a second, you get a dash and you dash away, then you get your movement back. But I thought that would be kind of interesting.
That is very, very interesting, very unique too. It kind of like takes a whole aspect of like trying to control how the enemy moves, since movement is such a huge part in how people survive in this game, that like playing around, even just the potential of suddenly getting yourself in a situation and not being able to get out is pretty interesting there.
Yeah, like those ADHD players.
Yeah,
like
it's
.com
it's
who
the
just
Twitch
have,
stopper.
exactly. It's the .com stopper. The players who just at Dark Moon, who they seem to have 15 dashes somehow. So you just beam them with your slowdown gun or whatever, and it's like, now what? Now you're gonna get headshot. That's what, because you can't move.
Can I go next?
What do you got, Colin?
You go.
Yeah,
go,
okay,
Goose.
go for it.
Okay, so I had no idea what you were about to say, and I said it would be cool if we had a mobilization gun.
Oh.
and my idea, I mean, it's basically the same thing, but my idea was that it was like the sniper rifle, where it was really hard to hit someone, and it had like a certain number of shots before it just became useless and you had to pick up another weapon. So my idea was like, it had like, let's just say 5 shots, and then if you hit someone with it, they couldn't sprint or dash for a certain amount of time. So basically the same thing, but
like a net almost.
yeah, like a net, yeah.
Huh.
Yours, I feel like would be more practical in the game. Like it's an actual gun, and you have to land a shot, and then for a certain period of time, that person is like slowed down, and that makes more sense to me, because would that be the only gun you have, or could you like be asymmetrical? You have the sniper on one hand, you have the pistol on the other.
Yeah, and the key is like the other person. Yeah, you could have a pistol and the immobilization gun. but the key is you can only shoot it 5 times before it becomes useless. So then you have a slot that you can't use. And then the other key is the other person can still shoot you. They just can't dash or sprint. They can still walk slow.
Yeah.
But I think that would,
So, yeah,
that
that
would
is
go a long way to help with the Dark Moons and the, and the koalas.
Rocketeers would love that, man.
Yes, that's the other thing is like taking down Rocketeers easier.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So that is basically the same gun, just different delivery methods.
I just thought that was so funny.
I love it.
Go ahead,
It
Gollum.
is. All right, Gollum. What's
So
yours?
I didn't come up with any sort of dash destroyer
Okay, good.
or something like that. I kind of went down a different route, which would change the way that the game works, or at least the way that people play the game, a significant amount. Because with dashes, like it's still this is a game of dash management, especially at the high levels, and a gun that like manages your dash for you is still within the realm of dash management, but a gun that heals your fellow teammates, whichever way it does that, whether that's through some slow but consistent beam that's easy to hit, or an explosive, or even just a regular pistol that's just different, and you shoot your friends with it and heal them a little bit. Now that, I think, would be a really interesting addition to the game. I don't know how you would balance it, but just like the idea that health pickups aren't the only way to get health back, and you can actually have somebody reliably heal your teammates, but they can't heal themselves, just like you can't shoot yourself with a pistol. I'm just really interested to see where that concept would go, even though
That'd
I know
be interesting.
it's never going to happen.
Yeah, no, that'd be super interesting if you're like pushing to the enemy base and you have one person like push up to the button and then you can like heal them from a distance.
Mm-hmm. It'd make killing shield users so much harder.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be a powerful combo right there. So like someone standing on a cart with a shield and also being healed.
Yeah, or like 2 teammates even get up with the heal gun and just boom, boom. That'd be fun.
Well, that's interesting. I thought that was a fun conversation. I like some of these ideas, and none of it'll ever happen, but it's fun to talk about it.
It's fun to dream.
Devs,
it's
if
fun
you're
to dream.
listening, get to work on this, please.
Yeah, come on over, Colum. You better be paying attention to this, man.
Yeah, Dorklum's the only one that listens to this. Light a fire under their ass, Dork, and let's get some more cool shit. No joke though, Dork. There's no reason to not be able to apply mutators to one team. Let's get that going, dude. Come on.
Exactly. And get the volcano exploding. Come on.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Lava everywhere.
Like volcano, an actual volcano. All right. So next up. All right. I will be good to go when you're ready.
All right, we are recording, so you're all good to go.
Okay. And then tell me if you guys hear any like heavy breathing or anything. So.
I just heard you fart.
You guys
all right, DASHCAST. Yeah, well, we're recording. He'll cut out whatever.